What's up, Straight Talk Society? This is your host, Trevor, and I'm back with another episode of Straight Talk with Trevor.
Because the ladies from Pour Your Heart Out
no topic
will be over
is
here
off
to
limits.
join the panel.
Plus, but it's a must, you gon' respect this. Plus, your nuts will touch the dust, you try to check this. You ain't
The
insane,
MMA brothers, Bones and Zay, have pre and post shows to the MMA shows, and I am your host, Mr. Straight Talk, the man with the greatest beard on YouTube.
I'm gonna tell you something. Facial hair is not apostolic. However you want to cut it, it's compromise. I don't care if your leader says you can wear a beard, honey. Beard's nothing more than pride. You're not going to be dipped in Holy Ghost oil and run around looking like the world.
Oh, I love throwing that in there. Real quick, I am back on Facebook. I guess they took me out of jail. I was able to connect the channel back. Those of you on Facebook, make sure and hit that like, share, and subscribe button.
And also on Mondays, 6 o'clock, tune in to the same channel for Man Talk Monday. Trust me, you ain't got nothing better to do. Even if you think you do and you tune into that show, you're going to realize, oh, man,
okay,
I've been missing this.
Yeah, because this is why you need me.
Once you listen to that, drop a like. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel because you're hard-headed, go ahead and subscribe to it
They
now.
are goofy.
And when you listen to that, if you haven't subscribed, you're going to want to subscribe. And then you're going to want to go back through the archives. And you're going to want to catch up on all your Man Talk Mondays. And then you might be able to find a few Bible debates in there.
That's what I'm going to say. TFP politics is on Tuesday.
Vancat, Mike, MD, and Ricardo do such a fantastic job with that. That's every Tuesday at 6 o'clock.
My position is impregnable. You can't do it.
If that doesn't fancy your boat,
Yeah, Wrestling with Reality on Wednesday.
Oh yeah, acknowledge.
we have the return of Straight Talk Therapy Sessions with the one and only Dr. Mia. So y'all be sure and tune into that.
And then you got the Bible debates on Thursdays.
So yeah, man, lock in with the Straight Talk Society, man, because you won't regret it, and we appreciate it. Also, merch coming out too. Look out for the merch. And if y'all can be so kind as to subscribe to the channel, it's only $1.99 a month. With all this premium content that we pushing out, it's definitely worth it. It just helps provide the channel with a resource to give y'all even better content, as if it can get better, right? But you know, just go ahead and show us some love. We would be greatly appreciative.
The Straight Talk Society. We will not go over that 2.5 hour mark. So, Mike, you know you ain't got no shirt on, right?
I never have clothes on, bro.
But I'm saying you like right on the like crazy.
My bad. I don't like clothes, bro. Anybody that knows me, my fault.
Crazy.
Yeah, about to have me some Dr. What the f? What the heck? What the heck? I had my mouth. What the f?
Do you really believe that garbage? It's not about believing, it's a matter of fact.
So you believe.
Well, nobody else could make a decision but me because I was the president. The final decision comes to the president.
You know, it's easy enough for a Monday morning quarterback to say what the coach should have done after the game's over. But when the decision is up before you, and on my desk I have a motto which says the buck stops here, the decision has to be made.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
And I want to say this to the television audience. I made my mistakes, but in all of my years of public life, I have never profited from public service. I've earned every cent. And in all of my years of public life, I have never obstructed justice. And I think, too, that I could say that in my years of public life, that I welcome this kind of examination, because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
President?
Yep.
Mr. President, I want to raise an issue that I think has been lurking out there for 2 or 3 weeks and casting specifically in national security terms. You already are the oldest president in history, and some of your staff say you were tired after your most recent encounter with Mr. Mondale. I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
And I'm the one who will not raise taxes. My opponent now says he'll raise them as a last resort or a third resort. But when a politician talks like that, you know that's one resort he'll be checking into. And my opponent won't rule out raising taxes, but I will, and the Congress will push me to raise taxes, and I'll say no. And they'll push, and I'll say no. And they'll push again, and I'll say to them, read my lips. No new
Oh, shit. Here we go again.
You're full of shit.
All right, thank you.
No, shush. Shush.
In any country, prison is where society sends its failures. But in this country, society itself is failing.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
We won the evangelicals. We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
Niggas, you crazy.
Grab him by the pussy.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
Stay shut your mouth. Because you don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I did.
Hold it, tough guy. I'm not afraid of physical. Hold it.
Don't sit there and tell me I'm not.
There's an old saying in Tennessee, I know it's in Texas, probably in Tennessee, that says, fool me once, shame on you. You fool me, you can't get fooled again.
Bringing drugs. drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Stand back and stand by with your shut up, man.
Last thing was Olivia Gondak. It says that I wanted to eat her pussy. Olivia Gondak. I've never said that in my life tour. I would never do that. I'm happily married. I've got more than enough to eat at home. Thank you very much.
You got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Okay. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible. I went to an Ivy League school. I'm very highly educated. I know words. I had the best words. We now have a gun on every table. We're ready to start shooting.
By the way, maybe you could inject some bleach in your arm, and that would take care of it. This is the same man.
That was said sarcastically.
That was...
Even though they're trying to impeach the son of a bitch. Can you believe that? You believe that? That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
If I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one other.
I don't want reality. I'm asking the question: which one is better? That's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
I don't like words that hide the truth. I don't like words that conceal reality. I don't like euphemisms or euphemistic language. And American English is loaded with euphemisms because Americans have a lot of trouble dealing with reality. Americans have trouble facing the truth. So they invent a kind of a soft language to protect themselves from it. And it gets worse with every generation. For some reason, it just keeps getting worse.
How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen?
If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big
No,
guy.
oh, stop it.
Is that your solution every poll?
No, sit down. Sorry, you're a clown. Sit down. Okay, you.
You're saying it's a falsehood, and they're giving Sean Spicer, our press secretary, gave alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts. Alternative facts.
All right, here we go for yet again another TFP Tuesday. And this Tuesday, it is episode 24, and it is also Super Tuesday. So before we get into it, let's just say what's up to panelists. Ricardo, what's going on, Ricardo?
Hey, I'm here. How is everybody doing? Welcome to another exciting show for SDS Tapes Politics. We're all excited. This is Super Tuesday, so let's see what pops off.
Yeah, it's a lot going on, and it's a whole bunch of topics to talk about. Today is going to be crazy. I mean, it's anticipated that Trump's going to roll over Nikki Haley, but we're just looking for the results, see how big a margin it is or how little of a margin it is. But tonight's going to be interesting. So on tonight's show, we got a lot of crazy stuff to go over. But, of course, our top story is in Haiti, we have catastrophe is just going on in Haiti, and it just keeps escalating and escalating and escalating. Before we start talking about it, let's just go into our lead story here, which is Haiti under siege.
Haiti's government has imposed a state of emergency and a curfew amidst surging gang violence and a deadly gang assault on the capital's main prison that allowed thousands of inmates to escape. The U.S. Embassy in Haiti is urging citizens to leave the country. Haiti has been engulfed in turmoil for years.
Wow, look at people just still making their commute as tires are burning right in the middle of the street here.
No police barricade, no firefighters, most seemingly unfazed. These flames have been burning for several hours. Haiti has been engulfed in turmoil for years.
We don't have a home to live in, we don't have food to eat. That's what they're shouting.
Many here now fear their country is on the brink of exploding.
Does it feel safe right now?
No.
It doesn't.
No, there's a thing. My country is broken right now.
These folks blame the current government and Prime Minister Ariel Henry, appointed following the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in 2021. They want Henry to go, but he says he's not yet ready to step down. This as panicked street shootouts like this one have become a near daily occurrence. It's often a clash between police and the gangs, which have essentially taken Haiti hostage. They flaunt their weapons and wealth on TikTok, threatening police and basking in lawlessness. This 14-year-old says he was recruited by a gang at 11. Tells me he's often forced to burn the bodies of those killed by other gang members. I want to change my way of life, he says, with a heavy look of shame. At an early morning food distribution, we meet dozens of women who have felt the wrath of gang violence. At times, we notice a lost stare in their eyes.
All of them have been victims, so there's nobody here who has not been a victim.
This woman's sister, shot and killed. This one's husband, burned alive inside their home. This woman tells us she was raped. She shows us the marks left behind. In recent months, gangs have seized more and more control over this country, including the roads leading to Port-au-Prince. Officials estimate that gangs now control as much as 80% of the capital. Even the U.S. Embassy and International Airport are mostly surrounded by rival gang territories.
Right back there, you had 5 people were killed last week.
Right there?
It was right there, yeah.
We arrive at this agricultural consortium. The WFP buys food from these local farmers to then hand out. But the recent protests have blocked distribution efforts, leaving some food to spoil. It's frustrating for the WFP officials, as they know you don't have to look far to find hunger here. These farmers pointing to their stomachs, lifting their shirts to us.
When you're hungry, a lot of folks will look at Haiti and they'll say, it's had issues for so long. The question that no doubt people in the U.S. will ask is, well, why should we help?
Well, there are 2 reasons why you need to help. First of all, it's on humanitarian grounds. But then there's also our own self-interest in the U.S. So the longer you wait to act on Haiti, the more migrants there will be on our southern border. It's that simple.
We begin in Haiti. A 72-hour state of emergency has been declared in Port-au-Prince and surrounds after armed gangs carried out 2 serious jailbreaks. The BBC has been told the vast majority of inmates held the capital's main prison have escaped, some 4,000 men. Gangs who now control much of Port-au-Prince broke into the jail in the early hours of Sunday. At least 12 people have been killed in the unrest. This latest upsurge in violence began on Thursday when the country's Prime Minister Ariel Henry travelled to Nairobi to discuss sending a Kenyan-led multinational security force to Haiti.
Armed gangs demanding the Prime Minister's resignation have attacked 2 prisons, allowing thousands of inmates to escape and leaving dozens dead and wounded. Violence has reached unprecedented levels since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse at his home in 2021. It's estimated that gangs now control as much as 80% of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Our Prime Minister Ariel Henry travelled out of the country last week to try and drum up support for a multinational peace mission to bring this gang violence under control.
Armed gangs have set up roadblocks in many parts of the capital, Port-au-Prince, following an explosion of violence. Gunfire was reported in several neighborhoods. People drive and walk by bodies lying in the streets, some with their hands tied behind their backs. Police officers are among the dead, overwhelmed by coordinated attacks orchestrated by a former officer turned gang leader nicknamed Barbecue, who says he won't stop until Haiti's Prime Minister Ariel Henry is gone.
We ask the Haitian National Police and the military to take responsibility and arrest Ariel Henry. Once again, we're not against the people. The armed groups are not your enemy. Arrest Ariel Henry for the country's liberation. These weapons that we have are not to hurt our brothers, who come from the same milieu as we do. The poor, they trust us. These weapons are a symbol of freedom. With these weapons, we will liberate the country.
It's believed more than 3,500 prisoners fled into the general population when the gunmen stormed 2 prisons, Haiti's main penitentiary in the capital and another in nearby Croix-des-Bouquets. Some inmates decided to stay in their cells, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Others, too old or disabled to flee. It's estimated gangs now control as much as 80% of the capital.
All right, so there's a little overview of some of the madness that's been occurring and taking place in Haiti. This is a real dire situation here. We just seem to have conflicts all around the world globe. So we got MD on the panel. What's up, MD? Oh, I guess he's not ready right now. All right, yeah. So MD will probably be in and out of the show. So we have this situation that's just really dire. So Ricardo, what's your take on the situation going on in Haiti at this moment?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it just, like I put in the chat, like Haiti doesn't seem to, it just can't be catching a break lately. Like first it was that devastating earthquake a couple years back, and then it's been on a snowball event for quite a while. But I had to bring to someone's attention in the chat, which was Franklin Garrison, when he was saying bring back the French. The French is the reason why Haiti is the way it is right now. In terms of, also the United States is also partially responsible as well, because they aided France in the state that Haiti is in. It's one of those things where I implore everyone to try to go back and do some investigational reading, because a lot of times colonialism, which is the main reason why Haiti, if you didn't know, I'm gonna school most of most of our listeners right now. Haiti is the first Black republic country in the world. It fought for its independence, and when they fought, most of those people that fought for Haiti's independence also fought in the American Revolution. So there's a lot of context there that a lot of people don't know, because most people that are not aware of this, when Haiti became a republic, France immediately after sought to make Haiti pay back as retribution for the fact that they became a republic, all the debts or money that it feels Haiti owed France. And to this very day, Haiti is still paying back that debt. As a result, we're seeing this dramatic dissonance that you're seeing now across the board. Haiti cannot pick itself back up because they having to pay back these debts, and then having to go. It's just like it's a snowball effect that doesn't seem to end. It did come to light in a recent article, I think it was either Washington Post or somewhere, that There's so much in context that the U.S. aided in terms of how Haiti is now, and they're trying to see or figure out how it is that, I guess, the rest of the world didn't really call it out for what it was. But then again, how would they call it out, and why wouldn't they? I mean, you're seeing now in context as well what is going on in the Middle East, and with Palestine and Israel. So there's a lot of hypocrisy. There's a lot of things, propaganda, all of that stuff mixed in one. It can't bring itself out of the dire straits that it's in, and it's sad because there's so much that Haiti has offered to the world, and yet the world, to me, seems to turn its back a lot on Haiti when it comes to speaking negatively and all of that in one. There's so much that Haiti has brought and contributed, not only to this country's historical growth, the United States. There's so much to the world that Haiti has brought as well, and including the special fact that it was the first Black republic country. A lot of times you don't even hear that in history classes. I don't think I remember hearing that at all when I was in school, but it's there. It's one of those things that they try to downplay, but it's the catalyst. Haiti is the catalyst for why most countries in the Caribbean became independent, because of the fight that they fought. And that fight went over to the American Revolution. So there's a lot that I expect and want people to actually seek out in terms of truth-wise, and not just go on the negativity that you always hear about Haiti. There's so much that, yes, Haiti, you will hear in the news, but one of the most contributing factors is because of what France did to Haiti, why you're seeing it the way it is now. And I hope one day that it can reach and rise itself up from the dissonance that it's in, but I doubt I'll see that in my lifetime.
All right, thank you for that, Ricardo. You made, as usual, great points on that, and with the history of what Haiti has had to go through. And it's very easy. You see a country like that that's been poor for decades now, and it's without that context of like the history of what happened. It's a misguided thing to just think that they're all at fault here. MD, are you available at the moment?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on? What's happening?
All right. So we're talking about Haiti here now with the recent jailbreaks and just rapes, murders, and everything that's going on, looting, everything imaginable is going on in Haiti right now. What's your take on the situation?
I mean, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate based on the fact that we're talking about a quote unquote Western country going through this type of turmoil. You know what I mean? That's first and foremost. Secondly, it's unfortunate because obviously the connection with the transatlantic slave trade and the rich history of it being a beacon of light in terms of true freedom and liberation from a baseline aspect. I'm not going to say in totality because, if you go back and look at the history of the Haitian Revolution and what happened after, you can sort a lot of that toward its ultimate demise as well. I won't do that here, but in terms of the aspect of how they liberated themselves, it's a inspiration to the diaspora. But in turn, this is a political show, so I got to be political with it in terms of the political aspirations that it tried to spring out of that revolution. Ultimately, that was part of their demise as well. I mean, just look at how the whole French reparations talk came about. You know what I mean? And it speaks for itself. It's funny to me, especially in the world we live in now, where a lot of these countries, even European countries, try to tout some sort of national identity and bringing out a falsehood of what is an immigration problem now, which wasn't in 20 years ago, but now all of a sudden it's an issue. It's funny how we're talking about the island of Hispaniola within itself being so culturally divided along a imaginary line, which is the border between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Yet, you know, you got practical cousins from the transatlantic slave trade. It's just funny how the cultural dynamic is so different in terms of what we see. You know, we can atone a lot of that to financial woes and you know what happened in years past. But it seems as though we rely heavy on the humanitarian effort when it comes to Haiti. Yet in recent memory, if we're going to talk about modern times, the humanitarian effort is what furthered the demise of Haiti. I mean, just go back and look at the Clinton Foundation. Need I say more? You know what I mean? When you don't have venture capitalists in a particular area, it's hard to manifest that said destiny that you know a lot of white people talk about. And Haiti is unfortunately is that country that the you know, and as far as resources, I'm not gonna say it's resource deficient. I mean, obviously they got some resource, but no effort. And to Ricardo's point, no effort was to bring forth, especially when it comes to the United States with what Haiti did from a revolution aspect toward the United States. You know, it's hard to fathom it not being considered more from a capital standpoint, as far as investment. You know, it's unfortunate. You know, I'm not going to try to tie any type of like grand scheme or grand conspiracy to it. I'm not going to do that because, you know, I'll just be kicking the can down the road at that point. I'm just going to say it's unfortunate.
Okay. Yeah, this is it really is an unfortunate situation. Do we see any way that this could improve at any point? Obviously, the United States government is not doing anything. And you have entrepreneurs or all these people, they're not doing anything there. Can somebody, like, because like you said, there is resources in Haiti. So I don't understand how just because the population of people is one color and you have that land, it still has resources. There should be a way to not exploit the land, but work with it to build it up. And you could get your money and they can enrich themselves as well. Is there any kind of way that we could see forward with Haiti?
See, let me say real quick. I knew you was going to say that. Because like I said, I'm not going to call Haiti resource deficient. They got some resources. You know, Haiti is a grand source of coffee, I believe. And you got other things. The sugar cane aspect, you know, sugar cane was imported to Haiti. So, you know, but that don't like not make it a resource. I get it. You know what I mean? In terms of see this where you get down the slippery slope, man, Cat. And I knew you was gonna start going down this road.
Go ahead.
In terms of the resources that it does have and it is able to cultivate, how collectively as a country can it output said resource? Is it even possible? Now, I might get bashed for saying this. Maybe, just maybe, colonization from an economic, I'm not talking about anything else, I'm just talking about from an economic aspect. Colonization, for this particular example, might be a bad idea. You know what I mean? In terms of being able to produce on a mass scale the resource and able to build an economy. Whether you agree with that said economy, that ain't the point. The point is just an economy, period. Right, wrong, or indifferent. The issue with Haiti has always been venture capitalism is basically non-existent in Haiti. without said venture capitalist, somebody willing to invest in said resource to produce it on a mass scale, it seems almost as if it's non-existent. We know it's not, but it seems as though, because the financial backing has never been there. So I pose the question: would Haiti look different if there was colonization in Haiti? Especially to Ricardo. That's who I really posed it to.
So to answer that question, it's one of them things. Yeah, it is. It's gonna be okay. So I'm gonna try to answer it as best as I can. Partially and being impartial at the same time. So when it comes to resources, and I can't help but put on my 10 hats when it comes to this. It's the same thing that I say is applicable to the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's so much resources there, but you can't help but think that the countries that are once, were under colonization, like Haiti was under French rule, are destabilized for a reason. Why are they? Why is it that you consistently see the same thing over and over again? It's like there's a never-ending seizure of wars and dictators and all these things that never seems to end. And it's like you then put on your tin hat again and say, oh, but the multinationals are there. They're you have the Shell company, you have so and so and all these other companies. So the resources are there, but my problem with the resources is that there's multinationals that are also in the countries that are dictating, and they're also destabilizing the country for a reason. Maybe they're able to get the resources much more cheaper. I just want to bring, I think a lot of people don't know this, so I'm going to bring this up so to bring some context. Haiti might be sitting on one of the largest oil reserves ever undiscovered. I think a lot of people don't realize this, but there's a lot of oil underneath Hispaniola, and Haiti seems to be under some, I think if I'm not mistaken, 159 billion cubic feet of oil. That's probably, if you put that in context, larger than what Venezuela has under the Maracaibo basin. So my question now is, what if tomorrow we discover oil? How does that become applicable to Haiti? You know what I mean? Would the U.S. go all of a sudden have an interest in coming back to help? Who then cultivates the resources from there? So then that's the other issue that we have. Is so who swarms in? Who then benefits from coming in to gain the resources? How do you export? How do you import? How does Haiti gain the capital taxes from that? That's an issue. And that's always been the problem with Haiti from day one. Who is in control of what? Because then if they're paying off this huge interested debt that France so quote unquote claims that Haiti needs to pay off, and it's never ending, who is in control here? Is it the United States? Is it France? Is it the multinationals? And when I say multinationals, I mean the Shell company, the Apples, the Bears, jewelry company. These somebody's in control. Somebody has their hand in the pot. But who is doing the puppeteering, pulling the strings here? Somebody is doing it. We just don't know who. So when you come back to the context of colonization, how would it have been beneficial to Haiti had they not done the revolution? My question now is, how did it seem to have worked for the other countries around it, like Jamaica, Cuba, Dominican Republic? I don't know if really and truly, if France was still in place, would it have been any different? Probably it would have been slightly better. But once at some point in time they would have gained independence. So then, wouldn't France still be the benefactor in all of this? You see what I'm saying? It's kind of up and down for me with that.
All right, MD. Any response to that?
I share Ricardo's sentiment. The main question is how, as far as stabilization, for me, before you can even talk about economic stabilization, you got to talk about political stabilization first. Right. And that seems to be the issue that's more forward facing, especially now. You know what I mean? So, and it's so hard because again, when Haiti was liberated, they were liberated based on a republic, so they're not even following that. You know what I mean? The ultimate rule of law is supposed to be the republic within itself, but when you so far down the totem pole as far as economic and social power, you see chaos immense. So to me, it's more important right now to stabilize government than anything else. You know what I mean?
Well,
To your point, go ahead.
oh no, I was just gonna say, so this current unrest that's going on, the escalation of all the violence and everything that's currently going on, is traced back to the 2021 murder of the president, and another person took over as president that I guess the gangs are against. So they want him to go to surrender himself so that the country can move forward. And you saw in the video there the leader of the gangs essentially is a former cop by the code name Barbecue. They call him Barbecue.
I don't even want to know why.
I know, man. You know. So essentially, the gangs are running Haiti. They have occupied over 80%. I don't. I just think it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. And in the video, they did mention there's an interest for the United States to get involved here because there are going to be people that are fleeing and trying to get refuge. And we're already talking about this border situation. So, you know.
Exactly. And the MAGA maniacs are going to tell me that this is not a situation where it's not plausible to seek asylum. See, this is the dumb stuff that you have to explain to people in order to try to get some type of inclination of an understanding. But a lot of these people just can't do it because they follow behind the words of another person.
Facts.
Without knowing for themselves. You know what I mean? Right. International law clearly says what seeking asylum is. And you just can't willy-nilly not give a person asylum based on the facts. But you can't tell that to the normal MAGA idiot because they don't understand it. They never read nothing in their life. They go off of what they believe to be some form of nationalism, and they just roll with the punches. You can't deny a person asylum unless it's for an extreme reason, like Trump gave with Title 42 and COVID. But he'll tell you that he was able to close the border. You didn't close the border. You did a savvy way to deny people the right to seek asylum in the country. That's what you did. But I digress.
I'm sorry, Ricardo. I just want to respond to Jeremy Dunbar. Yeah, we'll have you on when we go into the Super Tuesday voting aspect, and then we'll put you on during that segment. So stay tuned. Go ahead, Ricardo.
No, I was going to say to MD's point. I mean, the voting bloc that's going to be voting for, the interest of, the person that's going to, ultimately become the ticket on the GOP tonight, whosoever it is, and we all know who it's going to lead up to.
Who's this black dude right here?
Who?
Vlad. Vlad says you're a bunch of blood clots. Really? What's that?
I have no idea.
I don't know what's going on. I can't. I'm driving. I can't read what's going on. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Ricardo. Sorry about that.
No, I'm just saying that it's one of those things where the country has always, like the United States, if they're gonna go by nationalism, they have to go by what the country, the United States has done so far in terms of being the world police. And for now, to hear people go, oh, but we don't need the asylum seekers and all of that. What happened to World War II or World War One when the United States had to take in people on the under the narrative of, hey, there's these destabilization in other countries, like in Europe, for instance, there's a lot of people that came over in World War II, when we had a lot of people came over from Germany and other places. So it's one of those things where
been doing it for decades.
It's one of those things where I'm not understanding why all of a sudden now it's like a problem. The United States has always been taking in immigrants. This is how the country was able to grow. It has to take in people. That's one of those things. So when who then touts, oh, I'm closing the border. Not in a globalized world, you can't do that anymore. It sounds good on paper, but in a globalized world, even if you were to, in context, say, I'm just not gonna such and such or trade with such and such person, there's a ripple effect to that, and everybody knows that, because that's why we have trade agreements. This is why we have multiple plethoras of agreements that we sign with other countries, let alone getting in the industrial, like for instance, a plane that's being built in Seattle, you would think all the parts will come from the United States. You would think that, right? Not necessarily true. There's parts coming from China, from Germany, from elsewhere. So you stop one production line, it affects everything else that's coming into the flow of this country. So the same thing is applicable when it comes to, immigration, when you have asylum seekers and you have people that are coming in. And one of the contexts of this whole Haitian destabilization thing that you brought up, Venkat, is that it will have a ripple effect. You're going to have, we've been getting a lot of asylum seekers, but now this is going to then escalate this even more. So then you remember at one point you saw a lot of Haitian people going through the Mexican border, and then they were flagging people on horses. I don't know what became of that. I think the Haitians, people decided, hey, we're not going to go to that channel anymore. And probably they're still going through Mexico for all we know. But that came to light in the news, and then it just dissipated. So then now when they decide to go to the proper channels, which, they've been told to do, then all of a sudden everybody's going to be like, oh, well, we don't need them to come here anymore. Let us remind people, Haitian people has always been here. Again, I remind everyone, they have been a part of the American Revolution. Had it not been for them coming in, because Louisiana has a lot of context and a lot of correlations to Saint-Domingue. How do you say it? I don't remember how to say it in French.
Saint-Domingue.
Saint-Domingue, right, which is basically Haiti today. So there's a lot of historical ties that link the state of Louisiana to Haiti. So when I think I've heard somebody said something one time, and I had to correct them when I was at work. I'm like, do you not realize that had it not been for people coming over from Haiti, it just wouldn't have worked in terms of the American Revolution, because there's so much people that aided in that. And they were like, no. I said, no, you need to go back and read, because you clearly don't know that. I'm schooling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. And then when they read it, they were like, oh, I didn't know. I said, well, now you know. So when you come up with false narratives and say things and you don't really know the historical context, it becomes a problem. But that's the issue that I think I have, MD, with the MAGA crowd, is that they see a lot of things and they're being led by someone who he himself sometimes don't even know what he's saying. But then you need people who are out there to say, hey, man, what you're saying or what you did say wasn't correct, because now you're needing these people who don't really necessarily read or don't have the patience to read to know that, hey, this is what happened historically way back when. The United States hasn't been doing this just yesterday. They've been seeking or taking asylum seekers and immigrants from a while back, from the start of its inception. So all of a sudden now we're caught in this whole idea we're going to close the border. It doesn't work. And that's why I've been saying this from the beginning of TFP. You can't, in the globalized world, come up with that kind of frame of mind. It just doesn't work anymore. You could close your borders and you could say whatever, but then it does have a ripple effect, because then what now when the rest of the world says otherwise? You know what I mean? It is what it is.
But I push back on that, Ricardo. You can't close the border. Only Congress has the power to do that. I keep explaining this to people. They don't want to listen. Trump doesn't have the power to close a damn thing. He don't got that power. Title 42 was not him closing the border. Title 42 set precedent through a global pandemic. I mean, it's right there in black and white for you to read it. You know, people act like Trump just said, okay, hey, look, executive order, close the border. It don't work that way. He doesn't have legal authority to do that. Congress has to do that. And Congress has to have a good reason to do it. And immigration is not a good reason, especially if it's a boost on the economy, which some estimates say that it is. Now, it's funny to me, a lot of these people that tout this illegal immigrant stuff, which is, it's not an illegal immigrant because they ain't illegal. Asylum seekers ain't illegal. But for the sake of the argument, they tout this illegal immigrant. I can guarantee you, Van Cat and Ricardo, guarantee you, a lot of these MAGA maniacs that are mainly white can trace themselves back to the early 20th century, possibly late 19th century, to the very same act that Calvin Coolidge put into place to let they white ass into this country. I can guarantee it.
Truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that.
Whereas a person like myself, moi, was rooted in this land during its inception. So it's funny to me how this is even an argument, let alone the fact that it was a story that came out a couple months ago. I think I talked about this, Van Cat, that Tyson and what's the other chicken place? Tyson and one of those other chicken plants.
Purdue.
Purdue was under investigation for having migrants work illegally in their plants. So somebody making money off of something.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So what are we talking about here? The migrant situation is not affecting Main Street, small town USA. It's not. If anything, it's an argument to be made that is most affecting these black communities in i.e. Chicago, but that's a whole nother story. So we just gotta keep it real. We ain't no point of sugarcoating it. No point of sugarcoating it at all. But that's all I got.
All right. Yep. Very true, MD. All right. So this issue is obviously an ongoing issue. So we'll have updates on upcoming shows about Haiti and the terrible situation that's going on right now. I also want to address in political news segment here another issue that's been going on, and that is Israel. So we'll be right back with that.
Eyewitnesses and the Hamas-run Palestinian Ministry of Health say that more than 100 people were killed in what is being described as a chaotic incident as IDF soldiers opened fire as people were trying to get food from aid trucks. CNN's Jeremy Diamond is gathering new details. He's been picking up some new reporting. Jeremy, bring us up to speed here.
Well, first of all, Kate, I think it's important to note that the aid situation, the humanitarian situation in northern Gaza is just so desperate. And that seems to be part of what led to this scene. Hundreds, if not thousands of people surrounding some of these aid trucks that were able to enter northern Gaza. Some of the very few aid trucks that have actually been able to make it in there. And you can see in this video by the from the Israeli military, the crowds of people around these trucks. But what appears to have happened is that the Israeli military opened fire on some of these people who were surrounding these trucks. An Israeli military official telling us that the crowd approached the forces in a manner that posed a threat to the troops. And they say that those troops then responded with live by fire. Now, eyewitnesses on the scene have told us that Israeli tanks as well as drones opened fire on this crowd. And that following that, there was a chaotic scene. Some of the drivers of these aid trucks apparently tried to get away amid this gunfire and killed several additional people. We were told that 104 people were killed in this incident, 760 people injured, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health. It's not clear yet how many of those were killed by Israeli gunfire versus by these trucks and the ensuing chaos. But our eyewitnesses on the ground indicate that it was the Israeli gunfire that prompted some of those trucks to flee the scene and in the process run over some of these individuals. But we are still working to gather additional details. The Israeli military says for its part that the incident is under review, and they are also saying in a statement that Gazan residents surrounded the trucks, looted the supplies being delivered, and that during the incident, dozens of Gazans, they say, were injured as a result of pushing and trampling. This was clearly more than just pushing and trampling, and we have eyewitnesses making very clear that the Israeli military did indeed open fire on these individuals as well. Now, we should note that this is only happening because of how desperate the humanitarian situation is in northern Gaza. Very few aid trucks have actually been able to make it in there. The World Food Program recently suspended aid deliveries to northern Gaza, saying that it was too unsafe. Part of that has to do with a lack of coordination with the Israeli military to get those trucks into a war zone safely in a way that they are not targeted. And it also has to do with the fact that the Israeli military in the past has targeted police officers who have been around those aid convoys. And so there is very little security for these. You combine that lack of security, you combine that with the fact that people are on the brink of famine in northern Gaza, and then the Israeli military also being on the scene. And this is the situation that appears to have arisen.
All right. So Israel has now gone down some very, very low depths. Seems to be no limit to how low they're able to go here. Ricardo, what do you think about this report we just heard? Pretty much Israel killing people that are standing in line trying to get food.
Well, don't color me surprised. I mean, it's the same thing that a lot of people, and I just find it amazing because now looking back in hindsight, like years ago, I probably would have been, because of the propaganda, be more on the Israeli side. But now that I'm older, I'm beginning to seek out things that are not propaganda based. And I'm seeing it from both sides, and I'm beginning to wonder to myself, for all these years that we've been told in the media and all of that, why is it now that you see some, the person that's doing it, or not even the person, the country that's doing the bad doing, is not being called out for? Is it because of the political ties? Maybe, I don't know. We're putting on our tin hats here, but I find it deplorable. And even in the newsreel that you were listening to just now, what you just posted, it's literally saying, hey, the people are trying to seek the aid, but then again, how are you going to seek the aid when they're literally trying to kill you at the same length and breath? Like, that doesn't even make sense. It's kind of contradicting and conflicting at the same time. So then who do you trust? So it's like, people have been calling for a ceasefire for God knows how long, and President Biden claimed yesterday, it wasn't yesterday, he said it was sometime, I believe it was yesterday, he said it would have ended yesterday. Now he's saying, oh, but I hope it will come into fruition sometime. Like, you need to now put your foot down, Biden. I need you to now say, listen, both of y'all have been in this back and forth since October of last year. And Israel, you're clearly the person or the country that is the issue here. At least, give some ceasefire, so at least, with the conflict eased up, we could, aid people, give them food, give them, medical supplies. Where is the United Nations in all of this? Where is the rest of the world in all of this? There seems to be silence, and nobody's saying anything except for the people who are now, touting and going on the record of saying, hey, we have proof, video proof, so and so here online, while they're trying to shut down, because you have Meta, who owns Facebook as well as Instagram, and what's the one that we all see? WhatsApp. You know, there's a whole bunch of conglomerates that are coming about, like silencing people who are coming out to then call out, you know, the atrocities that we're seeing, but they're being silenced and being shut out. So again, I implore everybody to try not to get in too deep with the propaganda that you're seeing, because then at the same length and breath, we're also responsible. We have a say, we have a voice. We also can, you know, make changes that you're seeing affecting, you know, other parts of the world. But when you have your president being silent and, you know, he's saying one thing and then the conflict is doing the other, it becomes a little bit like, you know, what is really going on? Like, who is delegating here? Nobody seems to know. And that's my issue. And this is gonna, and I said this from last year when it came about, it's going to lead into the elections. And my question now is this going to be enough to sway a lot of people to vote? Otherwise, I don't know, because there's so much people's hands in the pots right now that we're fickle as a country. We tend to get swayed by one thing, and then something happens next week, and we all tend to forget about, you know, what came about. So I'm, you know, keeping a watchful eye leading into November. But like I said, today's Super Tuesday. We have a say, we have a voice. Let's just see how it leads into this year's election.
All right, MD, what's your take on the situation here?
Yeah, man. I'm the political prophet amongst men, so I must make a prediction. Now, I don't set it in stone or nothing, but I'm seeing stuff happening, right? So if you noticed a couple days ago, the first person in the Biden administration finally came out and said there must be an immediate ceasefire. Who was that person? I think y'all know, y'all follow the news just like me. That person was Vice President Kamala Harris. She also went on and represented in a delegation, I believe it was in Cairo, Egypt. I think this happened just yesterday.
Yes,
If it wasn't yesterday, yeah, it just happened just yesterday, where a delegation of country, as well as leadership of Hamas, met in Cairo to try to get something done as far as humanitarian aid was concerned. Israel didn't participate. I think they're trying to set. I don't want to say take over because that'll be the wrong word. But I think they're trying to, you know, put a bug in your ear in terms of where the Democratic leadership is going forward, whether it be directly or indirectly. I'm not willing to say it's going to be direct just yet. But I find it kind of funny that Biden has never uttered the words of an immediate ceasefire. Yet the Vice President Kamala Harris did, which is
So
in.
it's
I
like,
mean, some people would say it's total contradiction of what Biden is saying. But go ahead. Were you about to say?
I was just gonna say, it's sort of like what Biden did to Obama, where he just went ahead and just went with the gay rights thing and just led with it and put Obama in a situation where he like had to get on board.
He forced it.
So,
Yeah, correct.
yeah, so maybe Kamala is trying to do the same thing here.
It very well could be, or it could be DNC leadership pulling the string and tell, because they see the writing on the wall. Now, for I'm not the person that's going to try to use anecdotal evidence to say Biden is anything. I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Now, what's going on with the cops? It is what it is in terms of what I think about his policies, et cetera, et cetera. All the cognitive stuff. Hey, old white men been running the country for years now. Ain't nothing new. You know what I mean? So that's not my argument. I'm just saying the DNC sees what's going on in the media. They do. Did they may be second guessing themselves on the decision that they made. I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just predicting the pattern. That's all I'm doing. Now, from an aspect of what Israel, they call it the flour massacre is what they called it, because a lot of that was in those trucks where they for flour for making bread or whatnot. Israel killed those people. Let's keep it a buck. I mean, was it some trampling? And yeah, these people are hungry. They in famine. Of course, they gonna rush to the truck. I mean, but that lets you know the lack of a concerted effort to have some type of formulation in providing humanitarian aid for these people, because they don't give a damn. They treat them like animals because they book tell them that's what they are. You know what I mean? Hey, are we gonna keep it real here or not? I'm just saying.
We absolutely are.
Yeah, you ain't said nothing wrong.
So okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure I ain't about it. So what I'm saying is, Biden is in a position where, because Biden is a centrist. It ain't like he far to the left. We all know that. Biden is trying to walk a tightrope that he's simply gonna fall off, because he can't appease everybody. There's a certain demographic of people, whether they be right wing or left wing, it really don't matter, because vast majority of them are Christian. You're in a position where you're not looking at it from a humanitarian aspect. You're looking at it as, from the people's standpoint, you're looking at it as this is the right thing to do as far as defense. When in actuality, these people are trying to eradicate another group of people. That's what they're trying to do. And you're basing it off of your own special interest in said area, which is the Middle East. Israel is the largest American military base in the world. That's what I call it. You know what I mean? So you got many factors. You got special interests, you got the religious aspect, and you got the centrist, which is really conservative aspect of what you're doing there. You know what I mean? It's all gonna come to a head come November. I'm not saying it's gonna be the ultimate factor, because I think a lot of people are just indifferent to it because it's been happening for years. You know what I mean? But it's gonna be a factor. Does the DNC see that? They may see it, and that's why I think Kamala did what she did this weekend.
Yeah, you might very well be right. Go ahead, Ricardo.
I was gonna also bring a point out as well. Like Uncle Joe, as you know, I'm always
Uncle Joe.
Did mention that he's a Zionist, by the way. Put on the whole, the attire and whatnot. And if you remember, I'm not sure if you guys remember seeing that video, but he was like, "I'm a Zionist." I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't even know that, because that's brand new information to me." It doesn't surprise me. He has special interests, but at the same length and breath, yes, MD is correct. I think there's a lot to be said here when, there's like, we're not going to sugarcoat stuff here. Israel has an objective, and its clear objective now is to completely, if not annihilate and decimate and just completely, take out Palestine off the map. Now, whether or not they're going to get away with that, and I've said this from the beginning of October of last year, I don't believe they're going to be able to get away with it. Not in this world that we live in, not in the social media world that we're in. There's so much atrocities that I've seen from October until now. Not to state that, again, and I've said this from the beginning, if you've done something wrong to someone and then they retaliate, that is, you're gonna have to expect that. That's human beings. But when you continuously do something and then people call you out on it, and then you go, "Oh, that's not," they do the gaslighting thing. It's like, okay, so then at what point in time do you then say you're literally murdering kids and you're doing all of this under the shroud of, because they attack us? There's only so much that the rest of, and this is why it's called the powder keg of the Middle East, because once that ripple effect starts, I doubt that you're going to see Jordan be quiet that much anymore. I doubt you're going to see Egypt be quiet that much anymore. And I doubt you're going to see Lebanon be quiet. There's going to be a ripple effect. And at some point in time, if the Arab League of Nations decide, hey, okay, Israel, so, I mean, we all see what the rest of the world is seeing. When are you going to lighten up your load? Like, when are you going to stop? Because then if you can completely, continuously bombard the Palestinian people, we're going to have to now interject ourselves and step in. Then what does that look like going into November? That's my main issue that I've been seeing from the beginning. Add the fact that you have Ukraine that's on the other side, that's then still in this conflict with Russia. And again, Russia's doing a whole bunch of stuff. I've seen, if you guys are paying attention to the news, there's a whole bunch of hacking going on since last week where the telecommunication sector has been affected. But no one seems to know what's going on at the same length of breath. They're like, oh, where towers were affected. And it's like, well, AT&T, one of the major telecommunications companies in this country, was affected last week. All of a sudden today, Meta Group, which is in charge of Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, was affected. So then what's going to happen next week? You're noticing a whole bunch of things that have correlation here that we're all like being put with a blindfold over our eyes for. But again, we implore, and I implore everybody to pay attention to what is going on, because a whole bunch of stuff happening and lead into what we're leading into for November. Again, I digress. When it comes to Israel and this whole propaganda that you're doing, I can't help but feel like there's a lot of silence on both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats. I don't know if it's because we have a lot of Jewish influence, which it's always been there, and we're not going to hide away from that, because like MD mentioned, the largest military base in the Middle East is actually in Israel for the United States. The US cannot keep policing and meddling and not expect some kind of pushback or blowback or retaliation of some sort. We've seen it. They had that attack near the border, and then it was, I believe, or like the three countries in one section. A number of military people died, when they were happened to be sleeping or something, the base was attacked. You're going to see that coming about a lot, because again, there's a lot of silence. South Africa can only do so much by we denounce what Israel is doing. Ireland can say so much of saying we're going to denounce so much of what Israel is doing. Where's the rest of the world in this? It seems like the major powers to be is like, oh, I don't want to say anything because I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Your job is to tell Israel, do a ceasefire. And at the same time, when you do a ceasefire, do not attack the people that need the aid. There's no point in you killing people when they're literally reaching out to get food because they're hungry, they're starving, and haven't had food for like 2 weeks, or medical supplies, or blowing up their hospital just for the objective of trying to wipe them out. That doesn't work in this day and age. We've seen it in, back and forth. We're not learning from history at all. And that's where I'm so sad that the Arafats and the people that were here before in the 90s that used to have a say, you don't find those leaders about anymore. It's just more cowards that are like, we're going to go along with the puppet on the string mentality. I need now for somebody to say, hey, I denounce this, and screw the blowback or the cancellation I'm going to get. But I'm going to say it for what it's worth. This is not right, man. And let's just come to the table this nonsense. What do you want? What do you want? And hey, let's figure this out. No one's doing that. From October until now, it's all about let's free these hostages. But what about the people that are dying daily? What about those kids that are being murdered? And I say that with context, murdered every hour on the dot, because this is what Israel thinks is the right way to go, or the right way to do things. And that's not how it works in this modern day in the age. With social media, you're going to see people post stuff. There's only so much you can hide in propaganda before it still comes back out somewhere else in another channel of some sort. So, again, I implore everyone, don't get caught up in the propaganda of what you see on the news. Still seek out the truth elsewhere, because there's so much stuff that you're seeing, but they're being silenced because that's not the best way to publish and make, Israel look good in hindsight. So, hey, we're leading into the most important election of our lifetime again, that I feel, the last election was important, but this one is going to be significantly important. This is where your civic duty comes into play here. Either you vote to keep someone in or vote to get someone out. And that's your say. It's your voice. It's your vote. Go for it.
All right. Thank you, Ricardo. So we're going to go into the Super Tuesday portion of the show in a moment. But before we do that, I want to do a quick update here on Donald Trump's eligibility in Colorado. So we'll be back.
And we now have some breaking news for you out of the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington. The court has released its decision on what.
Oh, I guess that we got technical difficulties. I guess the video failed, but pretty much Donald Trump has been deemed eligible to run per the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court turned back Colorado's. They pushed back on Colorado's restricting Trump from going on the ballot. So, MD, what you were talking about this for a while, that you felt like it was going to get struck down, which it did. So, what's your thoughts?
Was gonna happen, but I'm gonna tell you this: I'm surprised at some of the stuff that I read as far as the concurrent opinions, as well as some.
Breaking up, MD.
This is where come back.
All right, so we'll come back to MD. What are your thoughts there, Ricardo, on Trump now eligible on the Colorado ballot?
Now, it's fascinating. So the U.S. Supreme Court acted unanimously, by the way, when it sided with Donald Trump on this whole issue of the ballots being a constitutional provision concerning the insurrection. I, in a sense, in a way, and I hate to, it's not even like I hate to say it, but I'm kind of, it's going to come off. I'm kind of glad in a way that it was unanimous and that it went in the way it did, because I feel, I'm afraid that it would have opened a Pandora's box to a number of things that I think we weren't prepared for. One is that if it had went the way of the Supreme Court saying, they're going to side with Colorado, who's to say Florida with DeSantis would have been like, well, we're going to take off Joe Biden off our ballots because he, his son was involved in this whole Ukraine thing and blah, blah, blah. So it would have set off a number of things that I think would have been like petty, both sides doing petty nonsense that would have been very distracting for the country. And we don't have time for that right now. So I feel like the unanimous decision of SCOTUS was in benefit of the accord of, hey, if the country, if the United States decide, hey, Donald Trump, for whatever reason, was insurrectionist, it's up to the House representative and it's up to the Senate to make the decision as to whether or not he needs to be placed on the ballots for the federal election. It's not up to the states to then dictate, and then once they dictate, is that they can do a whole bunch of things that would then jeopardize it for everybody else. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it was a 50-50. In a way, I'm glad of the outcome, because I feel like it would have been in lieu of a whole bunch of nonsense that would have come about after the fact if it was, in agreement with Colorado's rule. So I'm not too disappointed with it. What I am a little bit interested in knowing is how did they, I don't know. I'm gonna wait on MD's response, but I'm interested to see why they did it the way they did in terms of size, and not one person came out, because it was unanimous. So I'm interested to see who would have sided more with Colorado. But MD did mention this a while back, and I'm surprised the prediction came about true in the way he stated it was going to turn out. So, I'm waiting for his response, and again, the political what does MD always say? The
political profit amongst men
turns out to be right again. So let's see how much his record.
There you go.
Let's see how much he's gonna get next predictions.
I'm gonna try to cue this up one more time. Bear with me just a second.
And we now have some breaking news for you out of the U.S. Supreme Court in Washington. The court has released its decision on whether Donald Trump can remain on the ballot in Colorado, a decision with national implications for the November presidential election. CBC's Katie Simpson's been looking over the ruling. It's just released. So, Katie, what does it say and what does it mean?
Donald Trump is allowed to remain on ballots in the state of Colorado. The court does not have the power to kick him off the ballots, which, of course, was the focus of this legal challenge that was taken all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The decision was unanimous, all 9 justices agreeing. However, they had different reasonings for why they agree. But essentially, it is their position that the state does not have the power to determine who can be on a ballot. It's not up to the state. It's up to Congress to make a law. There are other reasons as well. But essentially, this decision means that a Colorado court cannot ban Donald Trump from being on election ballots. Now, the whole argument, this is focused really around January 6th and Donald Trump's involvement in what happened at the U.S. Capitol that day. There had been an argument presented to a Colorado court, and a Colorado court agreed that Donald Trump, because of his participation in what happened on January 6th, that court had ruled that Donald Trump had participated in an insurrection. There is a clause in the amendment, or in the Constitution, not to get too deep into the weeds here, but after the Civil War, the United States added a clause to the Constitution that said that anyone who engages in an insurrection or anyone who provides comfort or aids anyone who was involved in an insurrection, they can't hold office. It was meant to prevent Confederate generals from running for office, holding high office, and it's never been tested. This law has never been, or this amendment, this clause of the amendment has never been sort of challenged before until this moment. The Colorado court had ruled that, you know what, given what happened on January 6th, given Donald Trump's involvement under that, he should be banned from the ballots. Donald Trump appealed that all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court said, absolutely not, Colorado. You are in the wrong here. Donald Trump can be on this ballot.
The timing here, Katie, is remarkable. This comes before Super Tuesday voting. What are we expecting tomorrow?
Well, Colorado is one of the 15 states plus 1 territory that will be taking part in Super Tuesday. And so having some clarity before the vote actually takes place will be helpful for voters there. Also, it will send a signal to 2 other states, Maine and Illinois. They had also pursued similar avenues to try to boot Donald Trump from election ballots. But this ruling will be what is the standard for states. Those other efforts by states are likely not going to go anywhere. They're likely done now. So Donald Trump is expected he's heavily favored in all of the contests tomorrow. He's won all but one of the caucus and primaries so far in the Republican race to be the Republican presidential nominee. Nikki Haley won her first contest yesterday. She won the District of Columbia, which is a very heavily Democratic community. There's not a lot of Republicans that live in Washington, D.C. But again, Donald Trump getting a big win from the courts today. It was an expected win. It was largely expected the court would rule this way, but it's a big shot of momentum before Super Tuesday, where Donald Trump is expected to absolutely dominate and get even closer to trying to clinch the nomination to be the Republican presidential nominee.
Now to the Supreme Court decision today that states can't keep former President Trump off of ballots. Well, it comes just in time for the biggest day in presidential primaries, Super Tuesday tomorrow. That includes Colorado. Here with more is CNN's Julia Benbrook.
On the eve of Super Tuesday, the Supreme Court ruled that former President Donald Trump should remain on the ballot in Colorado. The decision follows months of debate over whether the Republican frontrunner violated the insurrectionist clause included in the 14th Amendment.
It was a very important decision. We're very well crafted, and I think it will go a long way toward bringing our country together, which our country needs.
The court was unanimous on the idea that Trump could not be unilaterally removed from the state's ballot, a massive win for the former president. The decision comes as his last major primary opponent, Nikki Haley, who vowed to stay in the race at least through Super Tuesday, faces a make-or-break moment.
We do have a country to save. So this is where you get to work. We need to make sure we go out in force on Tuesday.
Haley secured her first primary win this week in Washington, D.C. But some GOP strategists say Tuesday's race could be the final contest in her 2024 run.
There's just no path forward for Nikki Haley. She's a former governor. She had foreign policy chops. She had all of the resume and the presentation that should have done well, but she didn't.
More than 1/3 of the total delegates in both the Democratic and Republican presidential primaries are up for grabs on Tuesday.
Okay, so there we go with the Trump is eligible now. Before I go to MD, I just want to say something real quick. So the reality of the situation is, I mean, he did do an insurrection. I mean, I think in the old days, you know, with no internet, no TV, no cable, no nothing like that, it would be difficult to say that, you know, he didn't do it or did do it. But it seems like today they want a conviction. Let's say January 6th happened. The months preceding that, the months after that, you would have the cases go on and he would be trialed and convicted. They're saying, I think this is the main issue, is that because he hasn't been convicted, because he hasn't been even indicted for it, that they're not gonna go through with him being an insurrectionist and taking him off the ballot. And to me, I mean, we saw it in clear color, live on TV, what happened, and we have all the documentation. So in reality, yes, he did do it, but for some reason we need that technical term. And I don't think the way the Constitution is written and the way that amendment was set, I don't think you need all that heavy lifting. If he was a sitting president, he set up the rally, he set up the tone, he watched people do what they were doing, he was approving of what was going on, he didn't do anything. But for whatever reason, we need all this extra stuff to do it. But the other thing I wanted to mention real quick is that it's all shenanigans and theatrics, because Colorado is a state he wouldn't win anyway. And even if he did win it, Colorado's electoral votes are insignificant, and it's a primary in the Republican primary. So this is a non-issue, really. But I was just more on it because I just want some accountability, and I want it to be recognized that, you know, what he did, he needs to pay for it. So go ahead, MD. Go ahead with your point.
So yeah, can you hear me? Am I coming in clear?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
We
all
can
right,
hear you.
cool. All right. So Ricardo, I disagree with probably about 95% of the stuff you said. Now, in terms of what you just said, Venkat, I agree. I was the one that came out and said that it's going to get struck down based on the fact that there was no due process involved. And the issue is with this whole striking down of the 14th Amendment, they never mentioned that at all. As a matter of fact, a lot of the concurring opinions were talking about who's to say that, well, not who's to say, but who's given authority in each state to take Trump off the ballot. That was the main focal point of the argument, which is like asinine to me. Like I think insurrection was only mentioned throughout everybody's opinion, whether it was dissenting or concurrent. I think insurrection was mentioned like 4 times. They never even basically talked about what the whole case was about and the fact that Trump was involved in insurrection. They never even like mentioned it. A lot of the justices didn't. They were trying to say it's going to open up a Pandora's box. Now, this is where I'm saying I disagree with Ricardo with. It's going to open up a Pandora's box in terms of who's given authority to take the person off the ballot. And this coming from the Supreme Court, it's unfathomable at this point. The Colorado Supreme Court, yes, 100%, they came up with the conclusion that Trump was involved in the insurrection and was therefore, based on the clause, the insurrection clause of the 14th Amendment, was disqualified. That's not what took Trump off, and the Supreme Court knows this. That's not what took Trump off the ballot. Ultimately, the Secretary of State concurred with the position of the Colorado Supreme Court. Colorado Supreme Court don't have authority to do no stuff like that. It's got to be second-handed by the Secretary of State. SCOTUS know that. There's been no, even the Maine situation. The Maine situation, you had Republican and Democratic delegates that came together on oral argument and came to the conclusion that he was an insurrectionist. That was then second-handed by the Secretary of State. Like, what are we talking about? How come I know this? I'm not on the Supreme Court. I'm like, how do I know this? And then again, to Ricardo's point, and Amy Coney Barrett said this too about not setting a bad precedent, and we should be trying to lower the political temperature. I don't give a damn about if you lower or raise it. That's not what you're there for. You're there to tell me what's written into law and then extrapolate it to a position where it's plausible amongst whatever case you're talking about. I don't give a damn about no political temperature. Not from no Supreme Court justice.
That I agree with.
That's not your job. Your job is to tell me what the letter of law says. And the letter of law clearly says, if you have formerly held office, et cetera, and you were involved, incited, or participated in insurrection, you are then for disqualified. That's what it says. So, I mean, what are we talking about here? Now, I agree with the position of it has to be a formal due process in order for it to take fruition. I agree with that. So that was my reasoning behind saying it was going to get struck down, because there has been no formal due process in said insurrection. So I agree from that aspect, but SCOTUS didn't argue it that way. They argue it saying who's given the authority to do that. It clearly says in the elections section of the Constitution that all jurisdiction, blah blah blah, hereof, that's not delegated to the federal government, delegated to the state. And part of that is election. What are we talking about? Like, so it was weird to me. I agree with what happened. I just don't agree how it happened. I mean, like, what are we talking about? The Secretary of States were involved in each one of those cases that took Trump off the ballot. So common sense would tell me, So the governor appoints said Secretary of State, and then Secretary of State is ahead of the election. So who's in charge of taking Trump off the ballot? If 1 + 1 = 2, that's all I'm saying. Like, it's funny to me that they even argued that. That's crazy. But hey, who am I? I'm just a Negro talking. At the end, I ain't no Supreme Court justice.
All right. So yeah, I mean, it happened. It happened, folks.
Sure did.
So let's get into Super Tuesday now. Let's take a look at some of the information here for Super Tuesday.
Good Tuesday to you. You're watching News Nation Now. I'm Adrienne Bankert in for Nicole Burley. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's get right into Super Tuesday and the push to get Americans to the polls. Roughly a third of delegates up for grabs on both sides of the aisle today as voters in 15 states, including the two most populous, Texas and California, along with American Samoa, submit their ballots to decide who will lead their party's ticket come November. Now, on the Republican side, frontrunner, former President Donald Trump, anticipating a blowout win. His last remaining rival, Nikki Haley, hopes to keep her campaign alive with a last-minute surge. Then President Biden has no major rival. Instead, his campaign will be watching for overall turnout and enthusiasm behind his re-election effort. as the campaign tries to address poor job approval numbers on issues most important to voters like immigration and crime. We, of course, have live team coverage all around the country. We start in Palm Beach, Florida. News Nation's Brooke Schaefer with the Trump campaign. Brooke?
Adrian, you said it. Hundreds of delegates are up for grabs today, and Team Trump, for one, feeling pretty confident, predicting a Super Tuesday sweep. The former president overnight posting on Truth Social, encouraging his supporters to get out and vote today, saying that Super Tuesday is important. In a recent interview, saying that he wants today to send a message, a signal rather, that the, quote, freight train is coming. And so far, Trump has that momentum behind him, so far winning all but one Republican primary. Today, he looks to get even closer to that magic number of 1,215 delegates to clinch the Republican presidential nomination. In his recent stops, Trump very much looking to November and the general election. In his speech yesterday, soon after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of Trump in the Colorado ballot case, the former president spoke a lot about immigration, the economy, the wars in Israel and Ukraine, issues he has campaigned on and issues that have proved critical to his base, while also attacking President Joe Biden, accusing him of weaponizing the courts.
President Biden, number one, stop weaponization. Fight your fight yourself. Don't use prosecutors and judges to go after your opponent, to try and damage your opponent so you can win an election. Our country is much bigger than that.
So, of course, a sweep today on Super Tuesday would inch former President Donald Trump even closer to what is predicted to be a likely rematch between him and Joe Biden in November. Former President Trump is going to watch all of this play out from his home here in Florida. He's expected to speak with supporters later tonight.
Okay, so today is Super Tuesday. A lot of delegates are up for grabs from multiple states. Here joining us on the panel, Jeremy Dunbar. Welcome to the panel, Jeremy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Greetings, everyone.
All right. So we'll get to Jeremy in just a second. Just want to get to Ricardo real quick. Ricardo, what do you expect tonight on Super Tuesday?
I expect a number of things, but most importantly, I think you're going to see, we're not going to get a resolution in regards to the moderates and the MAGA crowd not being in agreement. And I think that's where Nikki Haley comes in. I expect Trump to actually get tonight won't go without a fight from Haley. So it's going to be interesting to see which moderate states is going to be in her corner more so compared to the final outcome for Trump. That's where I'm looking to see if there was enough sway, because that's the problem that Trump has, is that the moderates don't necessarily want to be on his side, but we're going to see what transpires after the results come in. So I'm looking forward to that.
All right, thanks, Ricardo. MD, what's you're the political prophet amongst men. So with that being said, what can you see in the future for Trump and Nikki Haley?
So yeah, I think this is Nikki Haley's last ride, but it's going to be bittersweet because I think she ultimately accomplished her mission, and that was to squeeze as much money out of Trump as possible. You know what I mean? And she, for all intents and purposes, she did that. I'm glad to see her stand on principle now, coming out saying that she will not vote. Now, again, I am the political prophet. I expect that to change. Once GOP pressure start getting on her, and it becomes a little too much, I do expect that to change. So I don't hold her to it. You know what I mean? Let's just say that. It's ultimately going to change because she's going to be looked at as far as an endorsement. And if she does hold strong, I commend her. But in any event, I do see a clean sweep for Trump tonight, just based on the fact that, again, like I've been saying, a lot of people are just over it. And a lot of Republicans, a lot of traditional conservative Republicans are over it. It's going to be as it's been for the most part throughout this primary season. It's going to be low turnout. Now, you're going to have your exceptions. Like it's going to be an exception with states like Texas and California. But a lot of these other small states, it's not going to be that big of a turnout. I think the biggest turnout was that Nevada primary. I think it was like close to 1 million people that voted. That's just not that's not it. Even in a primary, that's not it, folks. It's not. So that goes to show you where we stand in terms of the outlook on where a lot of people see this election going. Now, I will say, it's funny to me. Trump came out and said, now this was after the SCOTUS ruling, coming out and telling Biden to stop abusing his power and using DOJ and all these outlets to persecute his political opponent. Yet here he stands awaiting SCOTUS yet again to figure out if he got absolute immunity or not. Like we living in la la land, folks. This is crazy. like your lawyers were asked that very same question in regards to if you hold presidential immunity or not. I mean, by the logic, you would think that presidential immunity should be a bad thing because you're accusing said president of using his power of authority to persecute you. So it shouldn't be no big issue because he should be immune to that. Shouldn't be no problem. Just fight through it, Trump. Fight through it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So again, this is it's crazy at this point, but I do expect a clean sweep from Trump. I mean, let's just get it over with at this point. I'm ready to start seeing Biden go 1,000 miles per hour in terms of going full steam ahead with attacking Trump. That's where we got to be at this point. It's March, for God's sake. You know what I mean? So, I commend Nikki Haley. She did a great job in terms of giving an outlook of what we have in the future. And it's going to me ultimately. Now, this all depends on what happens. I'm a political prophet, but I ain't got clairvoyance like that. So I don't know what's going to happen come November. But if there's a blue wave and Biden ends up winning, she is going to have the ball going to be in her court. And she going to have all the clout to say, I told you so. And she just may be, the new head of the reclaimed conservative GOP.
That's a great
I'll just
point.
say that.
That's a great point, RMD. That's a great damn point right there. That made a lot of sense. Yeah, you might be damn right on that one, because she would definitely be the leader of the party at that point. Definitely, undeniable at that point. And she's taken Trump further than he would like to be. He's spending money. In an exit poll from one of the recent primaries, she got 70% of her voters said they will not vote for Donald Trump. So think about that. 70% of Nikki Haley's support said they ain't rolling with Trump. So you automatically think, well, okay, after she leaves, well, those voters will be his voters. The Nikki Haley supporters said, nah. So let's go to Jeremy Dunbar. So Jeremy, on the last show, you mentioned at a certain point that you don't vote and
Correct.
you won't vote.
Correct.
Even amongst all these issues and decisions that need to be made to tackle these problems in the world, you want to explain your point of view again for the listeners that weren't around at that time?
Absolutely. So mine always comes from a scriptural perspective, not my own. Simply because these men and women do not represent the people, nor do they care for the people. Their intent is to get financial gain and to collect a check for the rest of their lives and make others' lives miserable. And from a scriptural perspective, if they would follow the scriptures accordingly, they would have sound judgment, and everyone would love their neighbor as their self, as well as there would be no love for money in the filthy lucre which these men and women clearly have. They would also not murder. You want to spend trillions of dollars creating weapons to kill one another instead of using those trillions of dollars to feed them, because Jesus said, the poor you will have with you always. And if you are a devout, holy, following Christian, you care for your neighbor as yourself, as well as your enemy. Therefore, you don't do harm against your enemy. So this is why it will continuously down spiral, because they have not the love of mankind truly, because they don't love God first and foremost. You can't love anyone if you don't have the love of Christ. That is the true love, because you have to. And if they violate the scriptures, I will not vote for them, because the scriptures represents all men and women, right? And it teaches us conduct and character that is good, not that is bad. I know there's a lot of people who twist and manipulate the scriptures. That's why I say God's way, not my way, not man's way, not tradition's way. God's way is perfect and infallible, and it never errs, and it is righteous judgment. So that's why I won't. They don't care for the people, and you hear a lot of word salad, and then once they get into office, nothing gets done. They sit on their hands and collect their paycheck while the people are suffering, not to mention that their deeds and their conduct prove otherwise. Why is there an overwhelming amount of drugs flowing in? Well, because that's a cash cow. So they're allowing people to kill people with drugs. They're allowing people to sell cigarettes and drugs that cause people to become addicts and eventually die, yet they say they love them. I find that very hypocritical. They want to masquerade around as if they care, but they really want big business. That's like the comment I said earlier. They want drugs to flow throughout this country. They want poverty, and they want prisons. They don't want the well-being of the people. I mean, the only time they go into the impoverished areas is election time. You don't ever see their faces after any time outside of that. They're hypocrites. So I have no faith, no trust in them, because they're all liars, and they don't do what they say they're going to do. I could respect them if they say, hey, I can't get this done, but they make promises that they never keep. They continuously create ways to keep people poor, to murder people, to destroy their health. They don't care for you. So why would I vote for someone, and why would I put my word and my backing on someone that ultimately does not have the people at heart and does not truly care for them? That's the question that I would like to ask those. Think for yourself. What do they do to help the people? They don't do anything. They do nothing. They fight overseas. Look at this. This is all about money. It's all about political buddies and side deals, and you know, they don't care. So why would I vote for someone who doesn't care for you and I?
So, Jeremy, I can't disagree with a lot of the things you say. I can't, because I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying. I'm actually right there with you on that. Some of the stuff is unattainable, because like the standard of the Bible and the God and this and whatnot, and being a absolute great person. We understand. I understand people are flawed individuals, so I'm not interested in that part. But what I am interested in is, if you have a society and you gain power due to voting, if by getting in that position, you gain power by voting. So when people sit on their hands and they don't vote, you essentially forfeit the power over to those people you eloquently described as being trash bag human beings, is what I call them. And you're just leaving the door open for them to come in and take over and control and manipulate and just make your life and everyone around the society's life much more difficult. Now, the problem is, our voting population doesn't really vote the way they need to. The high is about 60% of Americans. That's your high. So that's a whole other 40% that just was like, I ain't doing this. I got something else better to do. And if you had a 40% voting block group of people that were voting, they would wield so much power and influence to direct, change policies, maneuver politicians to bend to the will of what they want. That's where this politics things come in. It's not a moral thing necessarily. It's more about a power give and take struggle, up and down type situation. So when you give up that power, you are enriching those that are evil and those that are not here for the best intentions. The active population that pays attention to what's going on in the politics, pays attention to the players in politics, knowing what they do, how they do it, and when they do it, those are the individuals that you're able to put on notice at any time. And if they get out of line, as a voter that's involved, that's totally understanding what's going on, you will then be able to keep them in line. And a politician is it's not Superman. A politician is a puppet, and either big business and the corporations are controlling that puppet,
correct,
or the people are controlling that puppet.
The
But
people
you
will never.
give away that power as the individual and as people when you don't vote.
There it is. Hey, let's get down to brass tack. Hey, Mr. Dunbar, do you
Yes, sir.
believe that America should be a theocracy?
A theocracy. Help me understand where you're coming from in a theocracy.
Theocracy meaning that the laws and statutes that govern this land should be from a religious aspect.
I wouldn't say religious.
Basically,
I would say
basically the Bible should be the laws and statutes that govern the United States.
a scriptural way, because if you take the whole scriptures in itself, you, like I said, you would love your neighbor as yourself. And if you love your neighbor, let's define the word love for a second. Love is not simply something that you say, love is something that you do. Now, if you truly love them, you will help them. You will help them regardless. You will help them. That's what it teaches. I know a lot of people like to pick at certain things that they disagree with, and that's fine. But it's infallible and perfect, because if you look at it, everything that's written in that is happening today. Everything that you see the characteristics. You will better be able to identify the flaws in the characters, and then you would also be able to help them with that flaw, not necessarily ridicule them, beat them down. See, our ways are crooked and our ways fail. But if you take a look at the laws of even nature in itself, it works perfectly as it is designed by the creator himself. It is only when man decides to tamper with it that it becomes flawed and error. Right? You look at the air. It's perfect in the way it works perfectly for everything, right? Then you have man who's destroying it and polluting it and making it worse. You take all the plants that were created, man takes it and twists it and makes it into something deadly, addictive, and one that breaks down the body. You take the water, perfect, pure, clean, does its purpose, right? It's life in itself. Without water, you don't live. Well, man contaminates it, plays with chemicals, destroys it. Man is the culprit because man has stepped outside of what God has ordained, and man will continue to do so. I know it won't change in all reality because the scriptures tell me, but that would be the only way that you would find peace. That would be the only way that you would find unity. That is the only way. And it is perfect and flawed, and that's where I stand, absolutely. Now, are we all up to what it says? Of course not. Do we all fall? Of course. I'm not sitting there saying that I'm perfect and that I'm holier than thou, because that would be a lie. But if I followed that, I would be a better person to be able to help more. I would do better for people if I obeyed. Now people have this misconstrued conception that because one says something about a certain behavior that they are judging. No, you are warning them of what it will cause. It's like if you say, "Hey, you smoke that cigarette, you're gonna get lung cancer." You're not judging them. You're warning them. You're telling them because you care for them. One who shuts their mouth and does not tell someone when they're in error does not love them. One who doesn't pick them up when they are down does not love them. These politicians do not pick anyone up. So why would I go and elect and put my word, which my word means everything? Because if I back that person, I am backing what they stand for. And I don't want to stand for the genocide, as you guys were perfectly outlining, that goes on throughout the world in the hypocrisy. I don't want my name attached to that. That's not
But
what I represent.
Jeremy, I don't think that when you vote for somebody that you're endorsing every grain and nook and cranny of their life. You're just strategically look who's going to be the one that's going to get that particular policy or policies that you want, that you think are best in your interests. And that's all it is. It's not a I think like your reliance is on people have to be good, and if they're not, then throw your hands up. But there's still a world that has to be lived in, and you still got to do things. So
I agree.
So let me be more detailed in my question, because I didn't get the response that I wanted. Should the name of God be invoked within the laws of this country?
If the laws of God were put in, it would work perfectly fine. Absolutely.
Okay, so you do believe in theocracy. So what about
that's Handmaid's Tale?
So what about people that are not Christian? Hell, what about people that are Satanists? Do they belong in the United States of America?
No, because their actual reason behind them is for the destruction of you.
Oh, okay. So you don't believe in freedom then?
I believe in you. Listen, you have the right to choose what you want to do, absolutely. But there will be consequences. Everybody obviously has a choice, right? I mean, let's be realistic about it. I can't force you to do anything. I can't force you to believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. I can't force you. I can present my case, but nobody can force anybody. See, this is why the scriptures say, choose ye this day whom you will serve. If God be God, serve him. If Baal be God, then serve him. Even God gives you a choice, right? So I'm telling you the reason why the destruction continuously gets worse and worse as each election happens. And that's the reason I'm telling you why. Is because why does it never get better, but it always gets worse? The further you get away from obeying the scriptures, the worse it gets, no matter what. It doesn't matter what you bring to the table, because your wisdom is not good enough. My wisdom is not good enough. The wisdom of God is the only thing that is good enough to save humanity. But humanity will continuously reject it. This I know. So I'm not sitting here saying that it will happen. But if one wanted true peace, wanted prosperity, wanted love, they would obey. If they don't, then they don't want it. Because God is love. He's the definition of love. How many times do we disobey him, yet he provides? How many times do we spit in his face and say his word is a lie, yet he still provides? And he gives you life. He is love.
But isn't there supposed to be a separation of church and state here?
Yes, they make it here.
So you can have your religion and all that stuff, but there's still a whole other area over here that needs to be attended, and it doesn't run by those rules. And what I'm saying is that, like, with religion, you can only go so far with certain people, and the world is still moving. So with that being said, you are forfeiting your power, and the thing is, like, we got Biden and we got Trump. These are two undesirable choices. Nobody wants this. Everybody's like, throw their hands up. But how do we get here? We got here 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when people didn't actively participate in the primaries and when they started to pick candidates and whatnot. Because
Right.
when you have politicians that go against what the voters want or what the electorate wants, usually often there's a price to be paid down in the election coming down the road. So they're not going to do stuff like that unless people allow it. And I think people have been allowing a lot of crazy things to happen. And more people are giving up, and more people are like, well, it's all messed up. And that's not the answer. See, there's a choice right now. Biden, Trump. I have reasons why I don't like Joe Biden. I have reasons why I don't like Trump. But I'm not going to be foolish and not recognize this one's rat poison and this one is day old bread.
I got you.
So
I understand
mean,
where you're coming from. I understand exactly where you're coming from. It's the same thing, right? When has the last president who's done well for the people? It's been way before 5 years ago. Let's be realistic. These presidents that have been elected have been horrible from the jump. It has not improved. It's progressively gotten worse. Now, I say that because like I said earlier, they masquerade around and give word salads, and they give you what you want to hear, yet they do none of what they say. They drag their feet, so you're not going to get a change. Now, if everybody stopped voted, then they would have no power. Then there wouldn't be an election. There wouldn't be a president. And then the people
they would just
themselves.
install the guy they want. They would just install the guy they want.
No, they can't. Because without an election, you can't have one. By the laws of the land.
Donald Trump said, "Hold my beer."
Listen, I understand where you're coming from. They're both horrific. They're both terrible. I will not. This is where I will not sacrifice and I will not compromise anything that is not up to the standard of what is right. I will not. I will not. Will I hate them? No. But I will not condone any of them because they violate that which is true, sacred, and precious. They continuously violate it and allow this. Look at the world. You go back to when you were a child, right? When has a politician ever saved a nation? Never. He's caused more war, more famine, and more death. That's all they do. That's their track record. They don't have any other purpose. Their desire is power, money, to enslave you, maybe not the way they did back then, but they do it in a different way. They still enslave you. They enslave your mind. They enslave your ability to do things because they put financial stipulations on everything and they pigeonhole you into making a choice. Now, I can say, I'm
now
not
we're
making
getting
that
somewhere.
choice.
Now you agree with that, Van Cat, don't you?
So they give you the illusion, right? They give you the illusion that you are free, yet you are not free. Because if you were truly free, then they would accept what you believe and they would accept what you stand for and they would accept what you choose to do. No, but they don't. Now, we all understand there needs to be laws within reason, Now, these laws are getting out of control. These laws are oppressing and they are not relieving the chains off of people. Because if you don't fit the narrative, you're cut off.
Quick question. Do you feel like churches should be taxed?
I don't have, if they tax, I could care less if they're taxed. If they want to tax them, whatever, it's money. Like Jesus said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's, whatever. Jesus said it himself. I could care less. The government decided to do it themselves. That's not scriptural. Because like I just mentioned, Jesus said when they asked him, he said, render to Caesar what is Caesar's. And they were talking about Monday. If he wants it, give it to him. See, I don't believe that money is going to save me. The only one that's going to save me is the Lord God above. He's the one that keeps me safe because the breath of my lungs and my life extends by his mercy, not by man's. So there's nothing that man can do to me outside of what God will allow. This is where my faith steps in. This is where I'm able to stand strong against anything because I have the one who's in control and I have the one who has all the power. Now, if you want to believe that man is going to be your savior, then I'm going to tell you that's foolish on you. And I'm going to tell you that he's not going to save you, and you're going to see things get progressively worse, like I just mentioned. When I was a child, it was much safer. I could go ride a bike without being worried about having stray bullets hit me.
So why do you believe? So why do you believe that is though? So if we're looking at the progressive degradation of society, why is that?
Because number
Just be
one,
blunt with me.
Yeah, number one, the family's fabric is destroyed, and God set that up.
Okay, all right.
God set that up. That's number one.
We getting somewhere.
Number two, if you disobey, put it this way, like I said, they have pushed God so far out of society that it cannot do anything but collapse. Because if God is the sustainer of life, peace, and health, and you kick him out, he's going to let you think what you want. Okay, you can handle it. I'll let you have it. And then he'll watch you fail because you are stubborn and hard-headed. It's like a parent. When a parent tells their kid, don't do this, yet they still disobey, what do they say? I told you not to do it, didn't I? That's the same way we are with God. God is our heavenly Father, the one who is all-knowing, all-powerful, made the heavens, the earth, everything you look at, he's made. Yet we say, you're not wise enough to guide me. You're foolish. I'm wiser than you. That's the same thing they got Satan kicked out of heaven. His pride.
Well,
Man
I don't
has so
think
much pride.
nobody's looking for guidance. We're talking about governance. How do we apply
What is
everything
governance?
that you're saying? How do we apply everything that you're saying within the laws and codes of these United States of America? That's
never
what I'm
will.
trying to get at.
You never will. And I'm realistic. You never will. I'm realistic, and I know what will come. This is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I know it won't. I know it never will, because I can read that book and see. But my what I want to focus on is I want you to think back when you were a child. Think about the times that it was, and think about now. Look at even the older generation, how they were, right? They were selfless. Look at this selfish generation in itself. You can see it all through society. You can see it. The deterioration starts at home with immoral lessons. Everything is, look at everybody's all half naked, basically naked, showing everything. Where is your pride? Where is your self-respect? Where is your dignity? Where is your love for yourself? You have no love for yourself. The society, everything is murder is praised. The more filthy a song comes, the more people flock to it. That's a mindset. That's a heart. You have to change that, and it starts at the home. And that starts with good moral ethics, which come from the scriptures.
Jeremy, so the United States, at least, was really, really religious way back, decades and decades ago. So it didn't just overnight turn like that.
I agree.
Why do you feel people have gotten to a point where religion is just not the option for them? Religion is not something that they felt has done right by them.
Because this country was not founded on the word of God. It was founded. Make no mistake about it.
Bingo.
Make no mistake about it. It was not founded on the scriptures.
Should it have been?
Absolutely, because then it would be different. Because you know what? Because you want to know why it would have been different? Because they would not have had slaves. They would not have had
slaves. I can't remember a time when there was a slave. There's always lazy people that don't want to do the work.
They would not have that. They would not have gone on murderous rampages, because that's what this country was founded on: bloodshed and murder. Let's just be real.
There was a bunch of killing in the biblical
I agree.
times.
That's not of God, because God said, "Thou shalt not kill."
All the things you've mentioned was probably way worse back then than it is now. The murder rate during like what 2012 up to 2016 was the lowest in the country.
Those numbers, those numbers are definitely not accurate if you go based upon the quantity. And no. See, numbers can be screwed, and numbers can be played with. Now, this I know. You mean to tell me that back then you had to worry about your child riding a bike getting hit with a stray bullet? Playing.
No, you got to worry about a wild animal just coming in and just ravaging you and killing you. It's different scenarios. You can't really match those
You
two
mean to
up.
tell me if you look talking to the older folks and you
Yeah.
listen, because I talk daily to older, middle-aged, and young every day, and the older folks, I can hear and see the difference when you get to younger people. The younger people have no value for life. They don't care about life. The older people cared about life. The
Yeah,
majority.
that's a hard sell, because when you're talking, I'm just seeing all kinds of images flashing in my head. All kinds of images of the Ku Klux Klan.
I'm talking. Listen. No. What I'm saying is listen to what I'm saying, right?
I think we're wearing rose
mayhem.
glasses.
Look at the amount of mayhem that is going on. Look at the amounts of people shooting up schools. People shooting up schools, shooting up hospitals, killing innocent people in hospitals, going over and genocide at an alarming rate. Like you just promoted just today. People were getting food and they were just annihilated.
Right. But as time goes on, you have more weapons
On
that can
daily basis, though.
Right.
This is a daily basis of hundreds of thousands of people probably dying.
Yeah.
A day. I'm not talking you have now. I'm not saying it was right, but the quantity, the quantity of it happening was way less.
Because the tools back then were way less. They had swords and arrows. We have machine guns and bombs.
Right.
So the rate
I'll
of
take a
death
bullet
will be
over a blade
extremely
any day.
more.
Exactly
Huh?
my point. Exactly my
I said
point.
I'll take a bullet over a blade any day.
Exactly my point. Like I said
But a
earlier,
blade, you got to get up close to me. You could get sniped from hundreds of yards away. Those
Like I
two
said,
things aren't the same.
think of the mindset. They come up with various ways that never stops on how to kill people, but not on how to feed people.
Yeah, and that's how you got to change that. But you cannot change
But you can't
anything by
change
not
it because the
participating.
people in the power will never do that, is my point. They will never.
So if you know those people won't do it, then you get rid of those bastards, and then you do something.
They continue. This is what I mean. They continuously
Don't fight
give
the
you
power,
false.
become the power,
Hold
and
on,
then you can get change.
What I'm saying is, one of the ones there's a true saying that I heard, and it says the only way to get to the top of a corrupt business is to be corrupt. So everyone who gets in, or everyone who is on that ballot, is already corrupted. So you can't get. They're not going to allow someone uncorrupted or doesn't going to fit the status quo up there. They're not going to allow it. This is what I'm saying. They give you a false hope, false narrative, and people believe it because they say, oh, you got to go out and vote because your vote makes a change. Well, does it? When is a vote changed? When is a vote changed? It continuously gets worse, and they continuously take everything from you and tell you to deal with it. And then they want you to give more. They're not going to, it's never going to change. And this is what I'm saying. I don't care who you put in office. It's never going to change because the people that they're going to present to you are going to do the same thing. It's like if you take McDonald's or Burger King, right? You have a choice, either McDonald's or Burger King. Is it really a healthy choice? No, it's not.
Well, if I get the salad,
it's still not healthy. It's still not healthy because all the crap
salad
inside of that.
So I guess what I'm going back to the freedom aspect. If that person wants to eat that Whopper, that Big Mac, whatever the situation may be, what effect is that on your life here in America? Not in the afterlife, not none of that. What effect is that on your life?
What effect is it on my life? Well, if you
Right.
are a true believer, you want well for everyone, and it bothers you when people do wrong for themselves. This is what I'm saying.
Hold on, Joey. I just think personally, I would rather focus on presenting the information and the education to people where everybody has the access for it, rather than instilling a law or some sort of sense that you have to be this way and this way only. So let's say that type of biblical government takes over and they're like, well, all candy is gone, all burgers are gone, all this is gone, and it's only this and that, which they deem good. I think that's a problem. I think it would be better if we would just give all the science data backing whatever, telling you what bad and what good can happen from things, giving it to people and everybody have access to it, and then let people make choices.
I agree, and that's why I said earlier, I can't force anyone. I can present to them what the scriptures say, but I can't force them because that's not my place to do so. So that is freedom, right? So,
but you're blaming said choice on the degradation of society, and that's the issue. What I'm telling you is this. What I'm telling you is this: a lot of the crime, a lot of the abuse of power, all of this stuff is happening because there's a perception of what society should be. There's so much emphasis on a collective outlook on what we should be. There's rips and tears within the demographics of said society. We're not putting an emphasis on who you are as a person and allowing you to govern yourself based on the rules and regulations that we have. That's the issue. The reason the people are shooting, the reason the people are shooting the school up is because they're done with the society that ostracized them. The reason that there's so much crime in a lot of these communities is because of they're looking at another demographic that have what they don't have in terms of an individual outlook on their life here in America. We have to get rid, including religion. We can't look at the individual as being part of the collective because it'll never work. Because there always will be a bar that's set that you can never reach. Look at your own bar, whether it be low or high, and set your goal on your own.
I agree. Listen. I have no quarrels with working out your own salvation with fear and trembling, because it's an own individual. Of course it is. But if you don't know how can you do it? Right? So putting aside all of these, it's all, if you would go back and read it, all of this is written already. That's happening. Everything that's unfolding is already written. It was already said to happen. Now, all you can do as a person, you're right, is you can lead by example. I'm not going to a politician to fix anything because it will never fix it. Mark my words, write this time and date down. There will never be a politician that will fix the poverty, that will fix the racism. There will never be one. There will never be a law instituted that will fix that problem. Never. It's going to go until the Lord comes back. Mark my words, write it down. And if it doesn't, and if it does stop, racism ends and poverty ends, I will come up on here and I will say, I was wrong. I apologize. I will come up publicly. But I'm telling you today, it will never change. And those politicians will never change it. And you can mark it. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was Barack Obama. I don't care if it's Clinton. I don't care if it's Bush. I don't care if it's Joe Piscopo that's coming on later. It's never going to change because those people do not have the love of Christ. If they did, they would look out for you. But they don't. This is what I'm saying. Religion, I'm not religious. Religion is so flawed. I say religion because it's not God's true holy way. They have parts of it, but not the whole thing. You need to get the whole, pure, uncut, premium scriptural knowledge, which only comes from God. It doesn't come from man, because the scriptures say, holy men of God spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost. It says all scriptures are given by inspiration of God and is good for reproof, doctrine, that the man of God may be thoroughly furnished unto all good works. It's not man who wrote it. It's not man. Man's wisdom is not that good. Man's wisdom is limited.
I just wanted to say this real quick. So I just feel like in the population here, there's a sense that presidents are supposed to solve the world's problems. President has like 4 to 8 years, which I think is highly unrealistic. All a president is doing is passing the baton to the next guy. So they're going to do what little they can do for that moment in time that they're there. And then the next person's supposed to continue the bridging. The problem is that in this country we're not focused on what the hell's going on. We're not focused on a overall goal of like what is good. There are people that just feel like they need to reduce or take away from other groups, and they feel good about that, right? Even if it means them having to do less or undercut themselves. You have people that are not going to be able to move forward because there are people in the society that feel good in pulling us back. But the president is not supposed to solve any problem, any world's problem. They're going to just deal with the little that they can for the little bit of time that they're in there, and the next guy's supposed to do it. That's it.
Which tells me everything I need to know about who they are as a person.
But it's not possible. They're only in there for 4 or 8 years max.
Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. All right. They're never senators, governors, I don't care who you are never going to fix the problem that I just said. They are never going to, and the violence is going to increase. The hatred is going to increase. It's going to increase. Like I said, the only thing that I can do is I can demonstrate the love of Christ. Even if you hate me, I'm still going to love you, and I'm still going to help you if you need my help. That's how I live it. People talk too much about saying that. You have to live it, because Jesus said, love your enemy. Love your enemy. And the word love is as a demonstration and action. It's not just a word that's thrown around so loosely nowadays that nobody knows what love is.
Right.
So this is what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
No, I just want to see, Ricardo, anything you wanted to add or say on this?
Ricardo been quiet, real quiet.
No, I'm listening to everybody, doing the speaking points, but then there's like points where I'm like trying to hear, Jeremy put back on. One of the things I wanted to ask you, Jeremy, is do you believe there's cynicism? Do you feel like, in terms of the context of how you state the society as how it is now, do you feel like if someone out there is listening right now, do you feel like it's a bit preachy? Like, how do you gain someone who, well, I agree with your context of what you're stating, but at the same breath, I feel like you're coming across a bit preachy. How do you then, I'm trying to word it in such a way, how do you then bring them into the fold of not being a cynic in terms of what and all of that you just
he basically saying, put it in political terms. Hey, Jeremy Dunbar is running for president in 2024. Give me your slogan.
I don't have a slogan. I'd say I'm not going to have a slogan. I don't need a slogan. Mine's going to come pure premium scripture. That's it. And it's going to demonstrate it. And I'm going to demonstrate it. I'm going to put it this way. I would never run for office because they would never allow, first off, someone who has my faith. They would never allow it because it's run.
But isn't that being a bit presumptuous?
But people with faith that go run for office.
Ricardo, basically, he's saying, no, I have to be a cynic. I can't do it any other way.
A cynic. A cynic. What do you mean by a cynic? Help me understand.
Meaning that you can't interpret your message in another social sphere. Meaning,
Exactly.
give me
Fatalist.
your message. Right. Give me your same message. The love of God, loving one another in the
Yep.
political realm. Can you interpret it in that realm? Is it possible?
Can you? You can present it. Of course you can. Will it work? No.
But that's been
Not for
so
everybody. Not for every. Some will. That I believe. Some will, but the vast majority won't, because that's what the scriptures teach me. That the vast majority will reject it.
All right.
And
So
I'm okay
let's.
with that, so I can only help who I can help. Right? So I know it sounds crazy and I know it sounds hard to understand, but things are going to, and remember I said this, are always going to continue to get extremely worse. They're not going to improve. And if you look at it, I myself have seen, and it breaks my heart that I can't help every one of them because I'm just not financially, I don't have it. But if I did, I would. I see so many people living in tents. Yet there's so much wealth in this country, but we have people living in tents. Why is that? I'd like to hear
Because
your understanding on that.
we gave up our political power to get the right policies and politicians in there to help that situation. If you have the wrong people there and you sit on your hands, it will just perpetuate the problem. And also, I don't look at nothing in life. And no matter how dire it is, I'm never going to look at it and be like, oh, I can't do nothing about this, or it was written, or it was already known, or it was prophesized. I don't run like that. That's not how my mind works. Because if that
I
was
can
the
respect
case,
that.
everything is a foregone conclusion. And no. Every minute of every moment, you make a decision, and it could change, alter, or move around in different ways. So I would never just give up before I even think. Like, you've already failed. If you ever think that something ain't gonna be better or you can't make something better, now maybe you don't put everything on your shoulder like the world, but start with yourself, start with your family, start with your society,
Correct. I
and you move
agree.
from there.
I agree with you there. That's why I said you live it, not just speak it.
Yeah.
And you
Well,
can affect the ones around you.
we got to go to the next topic here. We want to keep you on, and then let's just move on to the next topic. This is a great conversation, by the way.
I'm enjoying it, guys. I honestly, thank you so much. I am truly enjoying it. I welcome all the questions. Thank you for them.
All right. So the next thing we're gonna.
I just got one thing to say.
What's that?
Anybody that what Pastor Peter say? Anybody that calls themselves a prophet, what is a liar?
Oh, that was good. I like that one. That was good. I like that one.
That's real. All right. So let's go to the next topic here, where we're gonna look at, of course, Donald Trump, but not necessarily mainly him being the issue, but his supporters. Let's take a look.
I want to tell you, a black worker is a great worker. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me. That's why the black people like the black people like the black people like the black people like black people like black people like black people like because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against. And a lot of people said that that's why the black people like me. These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones, you see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. We've come a long way together.
Pro-Trump conservatives are making a push to win over black voters with images generated by artificial intelligence. Conservatives have published dozens of false images, also known as deepfakes, featuring black voters wearing pro-Trump paraphernalia and standing around him, according to the BBC. While Republicans are working to win over black voters for former President Donald Trump in the 2024 elections, these images appear to be produced by local creators. For example, an image featuring a group of black people around Trump was published by the conservative radio show host Mark Kaye. Kaye defended the images, noting he was not claiming they were real. He also dismissed fears that such images could influence voters. Kaye said, quote, "If anybody's voting one way or another because of one photo they see on Facebook page, that's a problem with that person, not just the post itself." AI-generated misinformation has risen as a concern for lawmakers and election officials since image generators such as Stable Diffusion and DALL-E became available to the public, making it easy to generate images and deepfakes with simple prompts. While big tech companies have adopted policies to identify images as AI-generated, it's unclear if those policies will be sufficient. While voters are in the primary season, analysts are growing worried about the technology's effect on voter turnout in the general election. According to a study, chatbots such as ChatGPT and Google Gemini could not provide accurate information about voting.
Trump supporters are using artificial intelligence to create fake images showing Donald Trump hanging out and having a blast with black voters. The BBC did a deep dive on this, and they were able to track down the creators of at least one of these images that was shared to more than 1 million people on Facebook. Happens to be a man by the name of Mark Kaye, who has a conservative radio show here in the state of Florida. And he shared an image that showed Donald Trump, with his arms around all these black voters. Everybody's smiling big, having a great time, but there were a couple telltale signs, of course, that this was a fake image that, again, he shared to his more than 1 million followers on Facebook. Because, obviously, everybody was a little too shiny and crisp looking, giving, the illusion that, obviously, these aren't real people. But most importantly, kind of one of the telltale signs of AI images is that people didn't have the correct number of fingers. Nevertheless, the image, along with an article talking about Donald Trump, courting black voters, did get a lot of people in the comments that believed the images were, in fact, real.
The image you're looking at is in fact fake. It is in fact AI generated, and it's one of the images that's been spreading online. So it looks real, but if you look closely, you can see a few giveaways that indicate it's actually an AI generated image. For instance, the man on the far left of the image has a ring finger that abruptly stops. It looks like his finger kind of stopped rendering or didn't render appropriately. There's also a weird coloration around Trump's fingers on his left hand. And then if you look at the hat and the shirt with text on them, you'll notice that the text is just gibberish. So that plays a role in kind of determining that this isn't an authentic image. But look, most people aren't going to dissect an image that closely. They're just going to see it and think, oh, look, Trump has a lot of support among black voters. And also, to be fair, there is a trend happening among the black voting base that could kind of predispose one to believing an image like this is real. Trump has increased his support among black voters, but not to the extent where he's like going to holiday parties and everyone's like wrapping their arms around him and like, supporting him in the way that's being depicted in these images.
Yeah. Okay, there we go. Donald Trump, his supporters, I should say, putting more fake news out there. These are the people that claim stop the steal and all these other things. So I will start with MD. MD, what's your thoughts on Donald Trump's deep fakes?
Van Cat, was that you that invited Trump to the Christmas party? Was that you? Hey, this AI, man, hey, it's a dangerous thing, man. I ain't gonna front on that. It's dangerous. And I seen a lot of these FBA clowns and some of these quasi pseudo political figures on Twitter that's black retweeting this stuff and you know, not to say that they didn't know it was fake, but just trying to make a point uh, to see how the black vote is being bolstered within the Republican base. I mean, which is fine. I ain't got no issue with that. But don't sell me some type of notion that, you know, the savior complex, basically. And we do that quite often, whether it be Republican or Democrat. And we gotta stop it. Like we gotta stop it. Like, this is crazy. What policies are being directed toward your community? Oh, well, the FBA clown to say, going back to the same old, because they don't know anything else. Illegal immigration. Look what's going on in Chicago, and it's a hamster wheel at this point. I'm not even gonna keep talking about it because you don't understand the dynamic of it. These migrants aren't going anywhere, not because of anything that the federal government is gonna do. What about your own damn local government? So I'm not. It's to the point where I keep hearing it and I just ignore it because I'm not talking about it no more. Because, like I said, it's kicking the can down the road. I've been saying for years now, the number one focal point from a political aspect is the migration situation in this country. Not for no economic reason, not for no great replacement theory in terms of like what some white supremacists would say. I'm telling you that you have been so stagnant politically as far as your knowledge that you are being eradicated as a base for the Democratic Party. That ain't got nothing to do with the people that's coming here. It ain't their fault. Hell, it's really your own. But I digress. These AI images, it's almost like when your grandma had Martin Luther King, JFK, and Jesus on the wall. We got to get out of this situation where we're idolizing these people to a point of a false narrative, first and foremost, and to a point where we have no inclination of what policy these people represent. We gotta stop doing. Look at that. That's crazy. That's like who would do something like that? Like what sick individual would AI generate Martin Luther King and Donald Trump? Who would do something like that? But again, it goes to show you how a lot of these MAGA maniacs really feel about you. They don't think you have the political astuteness to know anything but and to be frank, I know we got Jeremy on here, a Lord and Savior. You know what I'm saying? For a policy that you don't even understand. I'm gonna just keep it real.
Keep looking.
Look, that's
ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man. And the AI
you gotta stop, man. You gotta stop.
I mean, it's so much out there. It's just, I mean, and it goes all kinds of ways.
Is that Trump running? See, I'm still driving. Is that Trump running from the cops?
Yeah,
that's Trump running from the police.
Thank you. You gonna make me crash, man.
This man is trying to save his life, even if he tried. Like,
I mean, so Ricardo, what do you think?
But remember, that's what he said, though. Remember, that's what he said, that black people gravitate toward him because they feel how Trump's being persecuted and discriminated against. You said it. So, hey, it is what it is.
So let me be one of the first black people to tell you, sir, what do you know about discrimination? Do you even know what that word means in terms, since I know so much big words, I know every word there is. I'm gonna push back on him saying that not every black person is gonna, and yes, in some context you might feel, because he said this also when he pushed this narrative when he released that godforsaken shoes he released. Like, who the hell's gonna pay $225 for shoes? Oh, black people buy a lot of shoes, so they're gonna buy my shoes. I don't want your shoes. That your shoes is not beneficial to me. What does it bring to my life? Other than I'm looking at it and oh, maybe I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt. It's gold. Is it real gold? No. So I mean, like this thing where they're pushing, oh, all of a sudden they're touting for the black people, and the black people are gonna gravitate, you don't like black people, but yet you want their support. It's bizarre and it's strange and it's weird. And I hate it every single time we have an election. It's either they show up at a church somewhere and they do this joking and jiving and raising their hands and being all, please stop. It's a little bit on the I almost say the offensive side at this point. When both sides do, whether it be Democratic or GOP candidates do it, please cut it out. It's a little bit corny. It's a little bit insensitive. It's a little bit um just bizarre to say the least. This whole thing with the whole deep fakes and the AI, and we knew it was coming because artificial intelligence is so bizarre. Like you could still know when an AI is generated because you'll see like limbs and hands and things all over the place. But what happens when it becomes perfected to the point where you can't even tell the difference, or it's the voice AI that I'm more concerned with now going forward. The one thing with the pictures and displays, but what happens when artificial intelligence now mimics your voice? Is what's that damn movie called again? iRobot, or what was it? iRobot
Yep.
or
Yep. iRobot.
or
Yep.
Eagle Eye comes into fruition. That's been something that for years everybody been saying, hey, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. And no one seems to be like, hey, yeah, it's coming, but we should put a stop to it. It's like, when is Congress and the rest, like the House of Representatives, the politicians, going to be catching up? Because they're so far behind when it comes to technology. Technology has outpaced everything at this point. When is the political powers to be going to be like, okay, well, technology is here, we need to be ahead of the curve of it, where they're so behind that they're using flip phones still. Let's just show you how bad it is. There's some politicians that are in Congress and in the House of Representatives using flip phones. I can't even tell when was the last time I saw a flip phone. That was probably like 2001, if I remember well. So they're really high. They need to catch up now, because these deep fakes will put somebody in the Appalachians, perhaps, somebody who's like really not paying attention, to go, oh well, Trump can do no wrong. Hey, he has the black people's, the black people supporting him. Hey, he could put on a Superman suit. And no, people, like, this is not it. This is not how you're not gonna get the black vote this way. It's again, it's the most significant vote you could get, and as a matter of fact, I'll go on the limb and saying the black woman vote is probably more powerful, because it's the women that always is where
Yep.
the political parties go after. But what have they done lately to try to get or generate those votes? The last time we saw the black women's vote becoming significant was the midterm elections, and that was when I think it wasn't not the red wave one where they were inciting the whole red wave was going to be coming in. I think it was the one previously before that, before that senator died from I'm not sure if MD remembers. What was his name? I think he was from Alabama or Mississippi, one of them places, where he was like, hey, this is where Biden, we need the black voters to come out and support Biden. So I feel like there's a lot that they're
Talking about
doing.
John Lewis.
There you go. When he was
Yeah,
there, 'cause
yeah.
a lot that he did, and before, it's just sad that he died before it came to fruition. But he was ahead of the curve. But it's like I fail to to see how, again, don't like black people but want their support still. When are you gonna draw? When is my community gonna draw a line and say, hey, at this point in time, what is the best interest that you got for us? Because you keep incarcerating us at large numbers. You don't want us to be in certain employed places in certain positions, but you feel threatened even when I walk past you and I speak and talk and act like you, or you're threatened when, or they use certain contexts like, oh, you're too relaxed, or you're too this. Like, so a person can't be relaxed now because then you're terrified of how they would be. Like this, there's certain things that I see the powers to be used. And it's like, how is it beneficial to the black community at this point? That's what I want black people to be like, okay, well, how is that going to help me further myself going forward? Because you guys are doing all of this, waving everything to try to get my vote. How is it going to help my community propel forward? That's the issue that I'm having here. Instead of this whole thing that we could all relate to you. You can't relate to me. You've never walked a day or a mile in my shoe. How would you know how I feel when I'm walking out of my house or when I'm on the road with people this dirty stare, or because I speak a certain way, I'm going to be discriminated against, or I look a certain like that. That's where if you want to really get my vote, come down to my level and understand how I feel. That's what that's to be in terms of context. But this whole thing with the AI and the whole deep fakes and all that just to generate the black vote, you can miss me with that.
All right. So we'll go to Jeremy now. What do you think about Jeremy? What do you think about these deep fakes, these AI generated fake photos that Trump supporters are putting out on the internet?
I think it's obviously ridiculous. There is too much, I like to say, race hustling going on. They're trying to present themselves as people who are doing right by them. And to further understand that, you have to understand that the devil presents himself as an angel of light, seeking in whom he may devour. So he presents himself to be one with his words, but in his actions and his deeds, he is not. And you will continuously getting this. There's going to be so much manipulation and coercing and fake everything because this is what I feel about Donald Trump. And I'm going to go to scripture is Ephesians chapter 5, verse 6. Let no man deceive you with vain words. There's nothing but vain words from the man. Nothing but, and this is why I don't vote. Be not ye therefore partakers with them. I'm not going to be a partaker in their nonsense. And I can show you the reason why he is the way he is. If you go to Galatians chapter 5 and verse 19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, which is extreme lust, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, seditions, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I've also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom. But the fruits of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law. If you have the fruits of the Spirit, you don't perform the way Donald Trump does and these people with the AI. They want to deceive you. They don't want to open your understanding. They want to close it. Whereas the scriptures want to open your understanding. God doesn't want you blind. He wants you to see. He wants you to understand. That's the difference. Now, these men want you blind, stupid, uneducated, fools, acting barbaric. So this is what I'm telling you. They are controlled, whether you want to believe it or not, by the spirit of the devil. And that's why you can't fight and win against them, because you don't have the Spirit of God. You're going to fight all you want. People are going to fight till the day the Lord comes. It's going to continuously happen. All these deceitful things are going to keep coming. All these lies, all this false propaganda is going to continuously come. It's never going to change. It hasn't changed. It's taken on a different way. If you look back on even the COINTEL program, the COINTEL program used people to pretend like they were your friends or that they were down with whatever. They use it to infiltrate certain people. They masquerade. It goes back to them presenting something that they're not to trick you and manipulate you. Same way now it's AI. They're using a different way to do it because that way it's moving with the technology, as the gentleman said earlier. If they're moving with the technology, it's continuously getting worse. And these people in power or people trying to attain power will continuously do that to blind the people, to cause them suffering. It's awful, and it's going to continue to happen because it just keeps coming on another level. It's sad, it's sickening. The way that this man tries to portray himself. Anyone who does not have a racist or hatred towards another race isn't going to sit here and try to prove that they're not racist. They're just going to act the same with everybody. That's what people. I don't need to boast of myself saying, "Oh, I'm not racist. I'm not racist." No, I'll let you decide if you think I'm racist. Whether you do or you don't, I'll let my actions speak for me. That's what these people. You need to see the actions of them. Forget what they say. Look at what they do. And it's disgusting. I'm sorry. It's disgusting. It's shameful. The man ought to be ashamed of himself. The man ought to be disgusted with himself. That's not a good person. Neither are the people that work with him. They're not. They're terrible people. And
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
that's okay. Go ahead.
So, this is a it's a very low thing. Allegedly, Trump himself isn't behind this, but you never know. But his supporters are putting out, and I know millions of people have seen these, and they believe that it's real. So there you go.
Well,
So,
ignorance. Absolutely.
right. So we're gonna go now in session, lame duck session, and we'll be back on the other end. Before that, I just want to say Donald Trump has been the lame duck for the last 3 weeks in a row. Donald Trump has been the lame duck 4 out of the last 6 weeks. So let's see who's the lame duck. Will it be Trump? Will it be someone else? We'll find out on the other end.
First things first, in this lame duck session.
For the United Nations General Assembly to share the extraordinary progress we've made. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough.
I started having second thoughts almost the moment I sat down on the plane.
Lights off! Off! Turn them off. They're too bright. Turn them off. Turn them off. Let's go. Ready? Turn.
We go back a long way. She was 12, I was 30, but anyway.
So I changed my return flight and flew back on the first available flight I could take.
I'm sick and tired of smart guys. I'm sick and tired of ordinary people being fleeced. I'm tired of being quiet. I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
With great power comes great responsibility.
These lights are so bright in my eyes that I can't see too many people out there. But I can only see the black ones. I can't see any white ones. You see? That's how far I've come. That's how far I've come. That's a long way, isn't it? These lights. You want to see a bird graveyard? You just go. Take a look. A bird graveyard? Go under a windmill someday. You'll see more birds than you've ever seen ever in your life.
Is this possible or even legal? These are some of the questions surrounding this issue. Governor Gavin Newsom not too long ago announced the California minimum wage would be going up to $20 an hour for fast food workers starting on April 1st. But now we're learning that some companies, as you mentioned, will be exempt from this, which brings us to Panera Bread. Because of the franchise, they bake bread at their restaurants. They are not considered fast food according to this new minimum wage law. The law states that restaurants which bake their own bread and also sell it as a standalone item do not fall into the category of fast food, even though some customers consider them to be so. There is now an investigation into this loophole, especially in light of some financial contributions made by Panera Bread franchise owner Greg Flynn, who reportedly donated more than $150,000 to Newsom's campaign. And this is according to Bloomberg News. Flynn is from the Bay Area and is considered the largest franchisee in the country with thousands of brands, including Applebee's, Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and 24 Panera Bread locations. He was recently quoted saying that this increase would, quote, all but kill the franchise business model. Flynn and Newsom supposedly went to high school together and may share some business dealings. Pasadena Assembly member Chris Holden, who authored the bill, denies any conflict of interest.
We've got a complete ethical problem going on here where a billionaire business owner has put in a special exemption into a bill, and we don't even know how it got in there in the first place.
We have a fast food council that allows for anyone to say, hey, you know what, why don't I get credit for benefits? I pay for college scholarships. Shouldn't I get credit for that? That's for the council to work on.
And this is a statement from Newsom's office saying this legislation was the result of countless hours of negotiations with dozens of stakeholders over 2 years. Staff in the governor's office met with dozens of business owners as well as union representatives, and which is expected when policies of this consequence are moving through the legislature. Now, as far as other restaurants go, most fast food chains will not be able to claim this exemption. Chipotle, for example, is considering a price increase to offset the extra cost.
The governor's office is now saying Panera Bread is not exempt from a new law increasing fast food workers' minimum wage to $20 an hour. Now, this comes after receiving quite the backlash at the state capitol earlier today regarding allegations of a pay-to-play scheme. That law was signed back in September and excluded certain fast food places.
State Republican leaders are now calling out to Attorney General Rob Bonta to launch an investigation on what they describe a pay-to-play exemption deal. This comes shortly after the controversy broke out at the state capitol Thursday over Assembly Bill 1228 regarding Panera being exempt from the new law and the ties Governor Gavin Newsom has to the billionaire owner Greg Flynn.
I think it's important for all of us to recognize that a blistering media report published yesterday indicates the exemptions to the original mandate on the minimum wage hike are tied to the governor's campaign contributions.
The bill signed by Newsom back in September will raise the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20 an hour starting April 1st. But there are exemptions to that law. Places that sell and bake bread on site won't have to pay employees more. Reporter Ashley Zavala asked why, but the answer remains unclear.
Why in the agreement did you all decide that those workers should not be within the umbrella of this?
I mean, that's part of the sausage making. That was part of 257, the original bill, and we went back and forth, and there was part of the negotiation. It's the nature of negotiation. There's a lot of component parts in the industry. It's not just Jack in the Box, not just McDonald's. There are a lot of different players. This affects a lot of different franchisees and different models as it relates to that. And different conditions and environments. And so that was all part of the give and take.
State Republican leaders made sure to bring that up to the legislature.
The governor just stated today that it's the way sausage is made. Well, there's a lot of pork in sausage, if you know, and a lot of his friends are getting some pork out of this.
In light of the recent allegations and the long history of some of the things that the senator from Beaver laid out, I'm just going to lay off this bill today. I think that we really do need to take a serious look at this issue because if what is alleged is true, it is not acceptable.
Assemblyman Chris Holden, the author of the bill, says he did not take part of the negotiations when the amendments were made. When they asked Holden if he was aware of the relationship between the two, he responded,
I've become more aware of it here in recent times, but I wasn't aware of any relationships as the bill was being discussed.
Fox 26 News reached out to the governor's office for comment. A spokesperson provided the following statement. The governor never met with Flynn about this bill, and this story is absurd. Our legal team has reviewed, and it appears Panera is not exempt from the law.
That it's a friend of Gavin Newsom who doesn't have to pay the $20 an hour minimum wage.
But it turns out, A, it's not true. He never talked to me about it, period, full stop. So it's an absurd story.
He didn't have to talk to you about it.
There were some discussions around bakeries and this and that, but in relationship to this story, it's absurd.
It's a coincidence that that this new minimum wage law did not impact a campaign contributor of yours.
It does impact. The Restaurant Association just came out with a statement saying it does impact.
The backup to that, so here's the problem, is that the law impacted just those who work for fast food restaurant chains. There was a provision in it that singled out those who make standalone bread products, bakery products, and that, it appeared, according to Bloomberg News, who did a deep dive into it, to have helped the governor's friend, a guy named Greg Floyd, who is runs 24 different Panera Bread restaurants in California. The governor, as you saw right there, pushed back on that, saying that a new analysis of that bill says they would be covered by that minimum wage law. But, you know, it appeared it is still somewhat concerning that the governor's friend, an individual who has contributed to his campaign, appeared at the outset to have benefited from this law. The governor says that's not the case, but others have said it's going to be up to the courts to interpret it.
All right. There he is. There he is. Go ahead and put the spotlight on lame duck number 28, Gavin Newsom. We'll start with MD on this one. MD, what do you got about Gavin Newsom?
Well, first and foremost, let me second that Panera Bread is not a fast food chain. Have you been to Panera Bread recently? It takes forever to get the food. I love them bread bowls, man, they be off the chain. But damn, it take 15, 20 minutes for me to get a bread bowl. I'm like, damn, what you doing? All you gotta do is cut the hole in the bread and pour the soup already made. It take 15 minutes to do that. What's wrong with y'all? But in any event, yeah, so the whole pay to play. See, this is why you need, and for the lack of a better term, because I remember you saying it before, Venkat, this is part of the reason why you need, for the lack of a better term, parties that can do checks and balances when it comes to this. Why is the language so detailed in which we're talking about fast food? Now, I don't know California politics well enough to know what the standard minimum wage is. I don't know. But I find it crazy. This is detailed to a specific industry. Like what's the point? You know what I mean? For all intents and purposes, it seems like that's exactly what it is, pay to play. Now, Gavin Newsom, I got a love-hate relationship with Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, of course, and we'll do the show on a later date talking about the reparations. Gavin Newsom spring forward in terms of being able to form the commission on, what happened afterwards. I ain't gonna put on him. It was a debacle, but at least he had the capacity to formulate the commission. So I got a love-hate relationship with Gavin Newsom. Now, he's a corporate Democrat. Don't get it twisted. That's what he is. Gavin Newsom in no way, shape, or form is what I would call a leftist. He ain't. He's a corporate government assisted capitalist. That's what he is. But it's a role to play in that. If this comes out to be true, this is the reason why you got to have checks and balances in terms of the languages in a lot of these bills. Now, this was an AB bill, meaning it was an assembly bill that was formulated. Part of the reason that you have parties is to make sure the checks and balances are there. It's California, so it's hard to do checks and balances in a state like California, where pretty much everybody is the same, whether they blue or red. You know what I mean? But in any event, I find it funny that the language was so detailed. Why are we talking about minimum wage? And maybe somebody can look it up. Why are we talking about minimum wage for a specific industry? I ain't never heard nothing like that before. I live in Georgia where, hell, minimum wage will get you a bus ticket and a cardboard box, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? But I understand California is a big state, a big economy. It makes sense for the minimum wage to be as whatever it is. Like I said, I don't know the standard. I don't know what the standard is. Maybe somebody can look that up. I would argue that it's not plausible to have a minimum wage for a specific industry. Because what does that say to a worker in another industry? That my industry is not suitable enough to make this wage. You know what I mean? And that's not for government to say anyway. That's for the industry itself to maintain. y'all know me. I'm a capper. Tried and true. I don't think if there should be any minimum wage. I think the people should decide based on employee demand what's to be made. That's just me.
So
Don't jump down my
you
throat. I'm
mean
sorry.
people making $1.50 an hour is good? Because
See,
they're gonna go there. They're gonna go there with that.
Who's coming in? Okay, let's use your example. $1.50 an hour. Who's coming in working for $1.50 an hour? I don't give a damn if
Hey,
you ain't got nothing. Who's coming in making agreeing to be paid $1.50 an hour? See, that's where I believe in the power of the people more than you do, Fat Cat. See, you give
they
this
fail
perception.
too much. They fail too much.
See, you give this perception that the power should be toward the people and not to the company. I'm the person that actually seconds that sentiment because I'm the one saying that the people should decide the rate based on the influx of the people that's being employed there. And you now remember you came up with the example of $1.50. I don't give a damn if I ain't got a pot to piss in and went on throw it out. I'm not working for $1.50 an hour. It's just not happening. The
How
people
much is
have that right, and guess what? And guess what's going to happen? The price will go up based on that need for that specific position. The people
now?
decide that, not the corporations.
Now, MD, you know that Chick-fil-A rolled out this plan to pay people with chicken sandwiches, right?
From your seat.
So $1.50, $1.50 don't sound too bad. Chick-fil-A came out last year. They came out with a program to pay people with chicken sandwiches. That's a real thing. I thought it was a joke, but it was real.
It was real.
They really was doing it. Yep.
From see that MD, for shame, Georgia.
So if there's if that company doing that, they ain't gonna be bashful about $1.50. I might have went too high, to be honest.
Stop sign right. Y'all distracted me, man. Go ahead.
What you got, Ricardo?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, MD, like you were, who is gonna work for $1.50? A desperate person would, and usually desperate people are like, you're like, my twin in the chat said that some immigrants might do it. You have the let's we forget, in the state of Florida, there was a whole bunch of people that were doing jobs that a typical American wouldn't do. But when the governor of the state of Florida decided, hey, immigrants are bad. Immigrants don't do this. They do in one particular sector, they ran out all the immigrants. So guess what happened in the construction business that they had here in Florida? A whole bunch of people left, and the influx was left wide open. Nobody wanted to do those jobs. So it's like it's one of those catch-22s where we'll say, oh, but we wouldn't do it, but then somebody else who really needs it would actually do it. So it's one of them catch-22s, though, MD. I have to say that. But yeah, Gavin, I mean, I don't know, this whole Panera Bread thing, and I can't even tell you the last time I've been in Panera Bread, to be perfectly honest. I think it was post or probably prior to the pandemic. And even then, I didn't order anything that was like, a given where I'm like, oh, I'm ordering. It was just more like, okay, give me something off the menu that I know I could eat. I don't even know what is on a Panera Bread's menu because it's not a place that I would, go in frequently and eat from. It's not.
Panera Bread is delicious.
There's not a lot of locations that I could, pinpoint myself from unless I go on a GPS app or something. And say, oh, I'm going to go to Panera Bread. You know what I mean?
Better get yourself a chicken Fontega, Ricardo.
But
that chicken Fontega be banging.
I'm going to look up what a chicken Fontega is because I don't even know what it is. So that's to show you.
Hell, sometimes I go to Panera Bread just for the baguette bread. Nothing else. That baguette bread delicious.
Soup too. I think they sell soup and a whole variety.
Oh yeah, that's my main thing. I get the bread bowl off the chain.
So that's what I'm saying. It's been a while since I've been to Panera Bread because my wife dragged me there once, and I was like, I don't know what to order. What is this? This seems like one of them hipster-looking places that you go into and be like, oh, hey, I'm cool. I'm gonna order this something bread. I don't know what the hell to order from there. So
Ricardo, don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. Panera Bread
Man,
is for.
where the hell you come from?
I'm everywhere. I'm everywhere. Panera Bread is just for ratchet women who want to feel bougie. That's all Panera Bread is for, and that's why MD and Van Cat love it. Don't go there. Stay away. Stay away. Be safe. Be safe.
Y'all
The
been
only thing you
called.
do with a Panera Bread is look at it and wave as you drive by it and go to a real restaurant. Don't you stop there. Continue, sir.
No, we so Venkat and MD, y'all been drinking and driving at Panera Bread this whole time. I'm shocked today, man.
All
Hey,
day,
I go
every
to the
day.
drive-through, bro. I don't even go in. I go to
I
the
go in.
drive-through.
I go in.
So you're trying to see you go to the drive-through is going inside the store. For shame, MD. For shame. You still
Hell,
going?
it's 20 minutes at the drive-through. Hell, I wouldn't want to go in. There ain't no telling what is there.
You heard what your twin said. You heard what your twin said. Don't go there. Panera Bread is like Arby's. Black people ain't supposed to be in there. It ain't
but
got
they
nothing to do with us.
got the beat though.
Yeah, that's
Nah,
another reason we ain't supposed to be in there.
Panera Bread is legit, man. They legit.
If you want a bread bowl, go to Publix.
Exactly. Now there's a place I'll go to, Publix, all day for the chicken sandwich. I'll go for that with the what you call it. Here we are doing product placements for these damn places and paying us.
Yeah, y'all damn capitalists. That's what y'all doing.
I am not a capitalist. Go ahead, sir, so I can yell at MD. I ain't yelling at MD in like a week. Go ahead, bro. My bad.
State Fist Politics is brought to you by Panera Bread.
I will fight you, Van Cat.
There you go. Send the invoice, Cat. Send the invoice.
Jeremy, what did you think about Gavin Newsom using pay for play tactic in a bill legislation for his friend that he's known for years? What do you think about this story?
I think it's for the corporation, by the corporation, and of the corporation. What I think is the alarming thing that catches my ear is the actual wage amount in itself. I don't know about, I'm sure California is very expensive. I know in the area that I live in, $20 an hour won't get you anywhere. The fact that the minimum wage is below living standards is appalling in itself. That's the first thing that stands out to me. This is what I mean. So if you look at the scenario, right, if you can either work 40 hours to 50 hours a week at minimum wage and not be able to live in a house, yet if you will not be able to support yourself or your family, right? But if you live off the government and don't have a job, you don't have to worry about it. So this is what I mean. They give you a false hope. They pigeonhole you into it, right? They pigeonhole you into it. Rely on me. We'll take care of you. And that's the scary part. That's where it's heading. They want more people in poverty because they can control more people in poverty. So this minimum wage thing has never been enough. You can't live on minimum wage. You can't. That tells you what they think of you. I mean, this is a guy who was, a couple of years ago telling people to shut their AC off while he had a sweatshirt on in the middle of summer inside. Really?
Yeah.
You're going to believe this guy? I mean, clearly this guy, it's classic grease in the pockets. It's nothing new. It's the same old, same old. It's not changing. This is what I mean. All of these politicians are just greedy, filthy, inhuman people. They don't care about people. I still can't get over it. $20 an hour, I guarantee you in California, you wouldn't even be able to afford a shack. I'm more than certain. If you worked 60 hours a week, I know up where I live I live in Rhode Island, and if you don't make at least $32 to $35 an hour, you ain't living in an apartment, let alone purchasing a house, which is quote unquote the American dream. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's disgusting. And that's why they continuously do this, and they have the influx of the immigrants so they can continuously do this to them. They can continuously misuse these immigrants with a false hope. I've worked with many of them um, personally who've come from overseas, the hardest workers, some of the nicest people, and to see the way they're treated. I'll give you a little history story on something. This is the one way I could help one person individually. I can't help everybody, but I had a gentleman who was from Guatemala, and he ended up working at getting a job the same place I was, and he was on the same truck as me. And we were talking. He didn't speak much very good English, so I was trying to learn Spanish, and he was trying. We're teaching one another. But we I found out what he was making. He was making $16 an hour, and then there was these guys who were making close to $30 an hour that couldn't do what he could do, and they were lazy. So when I decided to leave this place, and I went for an interview, the first thing that I asked when they were going to give me the job was, "Can I take somebody with me?" And they're like, "Yeah, sure." So I went and I talked to him, and I explained everything to him. Now this man was going to make, very good money, and I took him with me. So they use this to manipulate the immigrants as well. So that's what I'm saying. They bring the influx of immigrants and use them for cheap labor. Yeah, it may not be equivalent to whips and, living in a barn, but it's kind of the same concept. They keep them below in the poverty level, and they do it purposely so they can get their cheap labor off. So this is what I'm saying. This country is disgusting, and the politicians therein are disgusting, and the people who own businesses are disgusting. They're just out for filthy, lucrative gain. And this is why I won't back anyone because of this. They deliberately take advantage of immigrants and people who don't know better and give this false promise, this word salad. Oh, you can come on over here and it'll be lovely for you. How many people end up succeeding that come over here? Not very many. A lot of them end up staying in poverty levels, and then there's this false narrative that they're lazy and don't work. Well, no, in my experience, they're some of the hardest workers I've ever met in my life, and put a lot of these, American people to shame, quite honestly. And they do it without complaining. It's completely different. But, I digress. I'm going a little off topic, but it's a shame. And this man is a disgusting human being.
No, sir.
I would concur.
I
Go
would
ahead.
like to I would like to invite you. First of all, everyone, hello. My name is Other Truly. You see the dot dots? That means you have to pause. Other Truly. Now, I would like to welcome this gentleman. I am starting a crew called the Revelationists because everything I hear you saying sounds to me like you're a member, because this country is over. It just doesn't know it yet. It's just moving in resuscitation. It brings itself back up, but then it dies again, and it tries to come back up, and it dies again because this country is over. All you capitalists, MD, who believes that the people have some sort of power, they have none. The people can't even choose
That's cool.
who they want who they want for president. The people can't even choose what is right or what the speed limit should be. They pick people because, oh, please be smarter than me, I'm an idiot. I don't You hear the people who go vote and they don't even know who they're voting for. They just vote, look for the party name and just vote, because the people are stupid. The people have always been stupid. That's why we have the system we have in place. So let's get the people power thing out of there. There is no people power. It doesn't exist. There's corporate power. Well, I take it back, because corporations are people, right? So I get that's where the power must be. I don't understand how you can sit there and say that you believe the people will help decide. If this was like a free market, which is I believe you always go to, would be a free market system where the people would decide what the prices would be for their employment. You know as well as I do what would happen. They would just they would go as low as they could legally, and then they would find some illegal means that they could get away with, and then they would just go there. That's what corporations did before there were unions. That's what corporations did after unions. That's why the term minimum wage exists. That means it's the lowest we're going to pay you. It means this is the lowest we can get away with. Even if they're moving it up to 20, that means it should be 35. That's what it means. California is insanely bloated because Democrats have run wild and gone stupid like they always do, but we're not going to get into that. By the time they put it up to 20, that means 20 would have been good 10 years ago. That's how this country rolls. It's never been proactive. It's always been reactive. That's why everyone is poor. And that's why the girls were saying on the show the other day well, my bad, it was Kevin, but to me, that's the girls, that they were saying it's much better to just be abject, horribly poor than to try to make something of yourself, because you can only either be wealthy or broke. Because if you're in the middle, you're just getting peed on repeatedly, which is why every time the market blows or every time the country takes a turn, the middle class is more and more destroyed. It's the I can't even say the word, deforestation or the erosion of the middle class that has continued until, like the gentleman said, we're all in the poor, and then they can control us. Then they'll make the what's that thing they always do in sci-fi movies? They'll give you this is your money for the month. Here you go. No need to work, anyone. Here you go. You only get to work if you're a citizen. You don't have to be a citizen to get your little money. Here's your little money for the month. And then you'll be relegated to non-citizen status. And the world is over. Join my team, the Revolutionists. The world's already over. People just haven't seen it yet. Let Trump win and burn it all down. Thank you. I believe I'm done for the night.
Well, we just made a new tag team, the Fatalists Express.
Thank you. Burn it all down.
That's right.
They're pieces of garbage, and people keep, no matter how bad they screw you over, just because he has a couple letters after his name, they'll continually elect him because people are idiots.
Quick thing. What is the definition of insanity? It's doing the same thing and expecting a change. That's what
Exactly.
people are. They are
Exactly.
insane.
But if
See, I like
if
that.
I lift weights and I keep doing it over and over, I shouldn't expect to change.
Yeah,
That's
you'll
lifting
expect to
weights. We're
change it.
talking about people and their mindset and actually who they
I'm
are. It's
just
much
saying.
different.
No, you'll
Much
get a
different.
change. You'll get lactic acid burning up your muscles, and eventually your body will erode and you'll die. Because no matter how many weights you lift, you're still gonna die. It doesn't matter. Hey, I lift 330. Cool. You're gonna die. Doesn't matter. See how I did that? I'm not. You keep playing. Ask. You got another one? You
I
got
mean,
another one,
that's
Van
just
Cat?
it.
Huh? If I put on shoes every day, what? You got another one for me? I didn't think so.
Oh,
It's an illusion.
I was talking
It's
the
an
whole time.
illusion.
I was on mute.
Oh, well, come on, bring me something.
No.
Okay.
So we'll get ready to wrap up the show.
That means
So
Exo, shut up.
no. But there were a few things that happened. Like just before we got on air, Kristen Sinema said that she is pretty much retiring. She is not going to seek re-election. That happened. Also wanted to talk about Mitch McConnell. I don't know if we have time for that, but oof.
I'm sorry. I just want to say I hate MD on Mondays, and he's a little bit more tolerable on Tuesdays. I love you guys. I'll get out your way. Go handle your business.
All right. So we'll just go ahead and give our final sign-offs. We'll start with Ricardo.
Yeah, man, great show. There's a lot that happened. Just bring it back to the first hold of Haiti. What's going on in Haiti? There's a lot that's is attributed to the historical context of France. Seeking retribution for the Haitian brotherhoods getting their independence, and France not liking it, so they're making them pay off the debts. And as for Israel and what they're doing, we all know that ain't changing anytime soon. Uncle Joe did mention there should have been a ceasefire yesterday, and there isn't. So we're waiting to see if Kamala is finally going to be doing something in her quest to becoming the next presidential candidate. And this whole thing with Trump trying to get the black votes and the deep fake AIs and all of that. I mean, it's a side. They need to cut it out. So all in all, great show. Great having Twin on the show, and great having you on the show, Jeremy. We look forward to hearing more. I mean, I know I was a bit quiet your conversation, but I was just listening in to see how much you were expressing, your point of views, and hopefully you'll come back, in the future, and we'll debate more in terms of your points. I know you mentioned you're not political, but everybody has a political side. We just don't express it much. But great show, MD and Van Ken and Jeremy and Twin. It was great having you all on, and look forward to the next shows coming up.
All right, thank you, Ricardo. All right, MD, your final sign off.
Yeah, another great show as always, man. Shout out to the whole panel and everybody who was in the chat. Hey, look, Mr. Jeremy Dunbar, when we do the next, I'm sorry, it's loud out here. I'm walking back to my truck. When we do the next politics of religion show, we're gonna have you back on. As a matter of fact, Van Cat, we might just have to do the crossover event. We might have to just get all the Bible brawlers, on the panel, and we come up with a format or questions or however you want to do, and just let them go. You know what I'm saying? Because me personally, I got my shtick. Everybody, we're gonna have to let the Bible brawlers just go at it on specific topics, and that's just how it's gonna have to roll. You know what I mean? Because like I can't hang. I can't hang. Not from a scripture aspect. I can't do it. So we just go out to rock out. I think that'll be a great show. About the Israel thing again. Everything comes full circle. So in 1968, when they were doing the election with Nixon, this same thing happened. I believe. Damn, who was? I think it was Humphrey. Herbert Humphrey, I believe, at the time was running against Nixon, and this very same thing was happening in the DNC. You had the Vietnam War going on. The progressive voters was not rocking with LBJ and Herbert Humphrey at that time at all, and they protested. And lo and behold, damn, that's a pretty truck. I'm sorry. Lo and behold, Nixon got into power, and Nixon, you can kind of correlate similar, I guess you would say, personalities, maybe. In terms of how we look at Trump today. Not as extreme. I'd never say that. Not as extreme, but the instance was there in terms of law and order and all the tropes Nixon was putting out at that time. You know what I mean? Right. So everything comes full circle. Exactly what's going on right now already happened in the same fashion with the Democrats and the Vietnam War. So just keep that in mind. And I'll see y'all tomorrow. Yeah, I'll check in tomorrow because I'll be at Dynamite tomorrow. So I'll see y'all when I see y'all.
You gonna do a live feed there for the show?
Yeah. I'll check in.
All right. So next, Jeremy Dunbar, your final sign off, sir.
All right. I'd like to thank you guys yet again for inviting me and having me on the show. I greatly appreciate it. I would love to have that topic that you guys mentioned, and I would definitely come back on for the religion and politics. Absolutely. You guys let me know when it is, and I'll be glad to come on. I do study a lot of politics and things of that nature. I don't want you guys to think that I don't. I have an understanding of it. You guys may have a little bit more. I wouldn't doubt that you guys may have a little more facts and things of that nature, but I do my checkups on history and political things and all these that happen because there's nothing new under the sun. It just keeps recycling itself, right? But the Haiti situation, I was actually interested, and I had to step out. I missed the rest of it, but I had to step out to have a conversation with Trevor. I was actually really interested in that. And as far as the inhumane things that happen over there, there's no words to put besides just disgusting. As far as the Gavin Newsom thing, you know how I feel about it. I've mentioned it. I don't have any trust in the politicians. They're professional liars. They get paid to lie, quite literally. They get paid to lie to the people, manipulate the people, pigeonhole them into choose this or choose that, and they give a false hope. It That's not what people need. People need their eyes opened, and they need help, and people need to be loved and shown that they're not what these politicians paint them as pawns. And that's what they use race for. They use it to divide and conquer. They use, because if you're divided, you will fall. They use financial reasons. They're paying attention to what everybody's talking about. That's why everything that everybody talks about in the given moment, that's what they attack. And then next election, there'll be something else. They're going to use what people talk about to divide and conquer, to overcome, and to enslave people. It's a different type of slavery. It's modern day slavery. It's a false choice, a false narrative. They don't want you liberated. They don't want you to be self-sufficient. They want you reliant on them because they'll have the power and be able to dictate what you do. Now, I work in the energy department as far as my profession, and they pigeonhole people into going electric. They throw this giant carrot over them, and then they won't incentivize other fossil fuels or anything like that. Well, that's a whole nother story, but this is just another way where they pigeonhole people into going to a certain route because they make it accessible. Same thing with fast food and the food that we eat. They make it cheaper for you to eat like garbage, and they make it more expensive for you to eat healthy, but then they tell you to be healthy. I'll leave you with this. Buy your fruits, you shall know them. Buy their fruits. What are their fruits? What they do, not only what they say. Because even Jesus said, they say they love me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Their hearts are far from the people. Their lip services are great and grand, and they got a silver tongue, and they're good at what they do, and they're convincing. And that's what they do to the masses. The AI stuff, I can't wait for when they start doing the projecting actual people in different areas that really aren't. I forget what it's called. Somebody may be able to help me. Holograms. That's going to be coming, and that's going to cause a whole nother conundrum of deceit and deception. I just pray and hope everybody is doing well and that we all love somebody near us and show them that love and care for them, truly care for them, by being there for them and listen to them. Hear where they are and what they're going through is greater than giving them a lip service. Me personally, I would rather hear about you than assume something about you. I don't know anything about you guys. I look forward to getting to know you guys better and hearing where you guys come from, like I said before, and hearing about you, because there can be no growth without the dialogue, and we must dialogue one with another. Whether we agree with them or not, never suppress it. Thank you all very much. God bless you and peace.
All right. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I'd like to thank everybody for participating on the show. Thank Ricardo, of course, MD, Jeremy. Of course, it's always good to see and hear Mike. Anytime he can bless us on the show, it's a great day. I'd like to thank Trevor, Keela, everyone else associated with the Straight Talk Society, Zay Bones, Dr. Mia, Nini. Thank you guys for all the support here. Next week, we're going to try to do the reparations show next week. depending on, I'm not sure if MD would be available or not, but we'll find out. We'll figure that out. But as far as it goes now, it should be the reparations show next week. So for everyone here at Straight Talk Society, thank you. Have a great evening. We'll see you next week. Oh, one more thing. I did want to plug this. We got MD. We got Wayne. Political Prophet versus Captain Manosphere. So that's going to go down March 25th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is like the WrestleMania of debates right here. So
it is.
You know.
Hey, last night, Man Talk Monday last night, they tried to do, I know what they was doing. They was trying to do a research show. That's what they was doing. They hid under the guise of identifying these different groups within the man. I know what you was doing, Wayne. I know exactly what you was doing. You was trying to do your homework. It's too late. You ain't got nothing but a couple weeks left. It's too late. I got you right where I want you.
So there's going to be some furniture moving on the 25th at 6 p.m. MD Wayne. Oh, man, I can't wait to see it. Cannot wait to see it. So for everybody here at TFP, have a great evening. Be safe. We'll see you next week. Peace.
Peace.
Peace, Toto.
She just said a terrible thing. You know what she said? Shout it out, because I don't want to. Okay, you're not allowed to say, and I never expect to hear that from you again. She said, I never expect to hear that from you again. She said he's. That's terrible. Terrible.